A woman stands in a dimly lit parking garage, blood dripping from her knuckles, holding a gun for the first time in her life. Three armed men circle her like wolves. The man who saved her from hell watches from the shadows above, rifle aimed, waiting. This is the moment everything breaks, the final stand between survival and death. But how did we get here? How does a waitress running from an abusive marriage end up fighting alongside a billionaire vigilante in a war she never asked for? Stay until the end to find out. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain came down hard that October night, drumming against the fire escape outside Vivian Mercer's bathroom window like fists demanding entry. She stood barefoot on cracked tile, staring at her reflection in a mirror that had seen too much. The woman looking back was 27, but carried the exhaustion of someone twice that age. Her left cheek bloomed purple and swollen. Her bottom lip was split clean through, still weeping blood that she dabbed at with toilet paper that came away red. Beyond the locked bathroom door, glass shattered. Trent's voice exploded through the thin walls of their Brooklyn apartment, slurred and vicious. "Where the fuck are you?" Vivian's hands shook as she gripped the sink. 6 years. 6 years of this cycle. The drinking, the accusations, the violence that started with shoves and escalated into closed fists. 6 years of making excuses to coworkers about clumsiness, of wearing long sleeves in summer, of learning which floorboards creaked so she could move through her own home like a ghost. Another crash, the kitchen table probably. Trent liked to flip furniture when he got like this. "I know you're hiding, you stupid bitch." Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream back, wanted to fight, wanted to do something other than stand here bleeding and afraid. But Vivian had learned the hard way that fighting back only made it worse. The last time she'd raised her voice, Trent had put her head through the drywall. She caught sight of her work uniform hanging on the back of the door, black slacks and a crisp white button-down with the Velvet Rouge logo embroidered on the pocket. That restaurant was her lifeline, her escape. For 8 hours a day, she got to exist in a world of crystal chandeliers and polished silver, serving people who lived in penthouses and wore watches worth more than her annual salary. It wasn't her world, but it was better than the one waiting for her at home. The doorknob rattled violently. "Open this fucking door!" Vivian flinched, her pulse hammered in her ears. She looked around the cramped bathroom for anything she could use, a hairdryer, a can of aerosol, something. But what was the point? Trent outweighed her by 80 pounds. He'd been a college linebacker before the drinking destroyed his prospects. Fighting him was like fighting a landslide. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Please just pass out." That's what usually happened. Trent would rage until the alcohol finally dragged him under, and Vivian would emerge to find him sprawled on the couch, snoring, surrounded by the wreckage of whatever he'd destroyed. Then she'd clean up the mess, hide the evidence, and pretend everything was fine. The pounding stopped. Vivian held her breath, listening. Footsteps retreated down the hallway. A door slammed, then silence. She waited 5 minutes before unlocking the bathroom door. The apartment looked like a crime scene. The coffee table was overturned, its glass top shattered across the carpet. Picture frames lay smashed on the floor. The kitchen was worse. Cabinet doors hung open, dishes broken in the sink, an entire bottle of whiskey spilled across the counter. And there, on the couch, was Trent Calloway. Face down, one arm dangling, mouth open, dead to the world. Vivian grabbed her purse, her phone, and her work shoes. She had a shift at Velvet Rouge tomorrow evening, and she'd rather sleep in the restaurant's storage room than spend another night here. She left without looking back. Velvet Rouge occupied the top floor of a glass tower in Midtown Manhattan, the kind of place where reservations were booked 6 months in advance and the wine list started at $300 a bottle. Vivian had worked there for 3 years, and the job had saved her sanity more times than she could count. When you're serving plates that cost more than your rent, you learn to disappear into the role. Smile, nod, anticipate needs, never let them see you bleed. She arrived 2 hours early for her shift, slipping through the service entrance and heading straight for the employee locker room. The overnight manager, Marcus, was inventory checking in the kitchen. He glanced up as she passed. "You're early." "Couldn't sleep," Vivian said. It wasn't a lie. Marcus's eyes lingered on her face for a second too long. "You okay?" "Fine." She kept walking, Marcus was decent enough not to push. The locker room was empty. Vivian changed into her uniform, applied makeup with the precision of a surgeon, foundation to cover the bruising, concealer for the split lip, powder to set everything in place. By the time she was done, she looked almost human. Almost. Her phone buzzed. A text from Trent. "Where are you?" She deleted it without responding. The evening shift started at 6. Velvet Rouge transformed as the sun set. Lights dimmed to a warm amber glow, candles lit on every table, soft jazz filtering through hidden speakers. The clientele arrived in tailored suits and designer dresses, speaking in low voices about mergers and acquisitions, about vacation homes in the Hamptons, about problems that money could solve. Vivian moved through the dining room like water, refilling glasses before they were empty, clearing plates the moment guests set down their forks. She was good at this. Being invisible, being useful, being nothing. Around 8:30, the hostess seated a new party in Vivian's section, table 12, the corner booth with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline. 3 men in expensive suits, the kind who wore power like cologne, and 1 man who didn't belong. He sat facing the room, back straight, hands folded on the table. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes the color of winter ice. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Vivian's car, but it was the way he held himself that set him apart. Still, watchful, like a predator pretending to be domesticated. Vivian approached the table with menus and water. "Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Vivian, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The 3 suits barely acknowledged her, already deep in conversation about stock options. But the 4th man, the one with the ice-gray eyes, looked directly at her. His gaze moved from her face to her hands to her face again. Vivian felt suddenly exposed, like he could see through the makeup, through the uniform, straight down to the bruises underneath. "Wine," one of the suits said without looking up. "Bring us your best Bordeaux." Vivian nodded and turned to go. "Wait." The voice was quiet but absolute. Everyone at the table stopped talking. The gray-eyed man was still looking at her. Not at her body, not through her. At her, like she was a person instead of a servant. "What happened to your face?" The question landed like a punch. Vivian's pulse spiked. The makeup was good. She'd checked it 3 times. How did he— "I'm sorry," she said, voice carefully neutral. "Your cheek," he said. "It's swollen. And your lip." One of the suits laughed uncomfortably. "Adrian, what the hell?" "I'm fine," Vivian said quickly. "Just clumsy. I'll get that wine." She walked away before he could respond, heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack a rib. In the service station behind the bar, she braced her hands on the counter and tried to breathe. No one noticed. No one ever noticed. That was the whole point of the makeup, the smile, the routine. But he'd noticed. She grabbed the wine from the cellar, composed herself, and returned to table 12. The suits were arguing about something technical and boring. Adrian, that's what the other man had called him, was silent, watching the city lights through the window. Vivian presented the bottle. 2009 Chateau Margaux. "Perfect," one of the suits said. She poured for each of them, hands steady despite the adrenaline still crackling through her veins. When she reached Adrian, he didn't touch his glass. Instead, he slid something across the table. A black business card. Matte finish. No logo. Just a phone number embossed in silver. "The moment you decide you want out," he said quietly, so only she could hear. "Call me." Vivian stared at the card. Her first instinct was to leave it there, to pretend she hadn't heard him, to go back to being invisible. But she picked it up and slipped it into her apron pocket. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Vivian served entrees, cleared plates, smiled at customers who didn't see her. The black card felt like a coal burning through the fabric of her apron. Around 11, table 12 settled their bill. One of the suits signed the check with a flourish, leaving a 20% tip that Vivian would split with the busser and bartender. The 3 men stood and headed for the exit, still arguing about market trends. Adrian Vale lingered. He looked at Vivian one last time, and in that look was something she couldn't name. Not pity, not desire. Something else. Understanding, maybe. Then he turned and walked out. Vivian finished her shift at midnight. She collected her tips, changed out of her uniform, and stepped into the cold October night. The subway ride back to Brooklyn was 40 minutes of fluorescent lights and empty stairs. She pulled out the black card and turned it over in her hands. Just a phone number, no name, no explanation. She should throw it away. She should forget about the man with the gray eyes and go home and figure out how to survive another day with Trent. But instead, she tucked the card into her wallet. Well, Trent was waiting for her when she got home. He sat in the dark living room, illuminated only by the glow of his phone screen. The apartment still smelled like spilled whiskey. The broken glass hadn't been cleaned up. "Where were you?" he asked. "Work." Vivian kept her voice flat. Emotional neutrality was a survival skill. "Work ended 2 hours ago. I took the long way home." Trent stood. Even in the darkness, Vivian could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands curled into fists. "You're lying." "I'm not." "Who were you with?" The shout came out of nowhere, 0 to 100 in half a second. Vivian flinched despite herself. "No one. I was at work, Trent. You can call Marcus if you don't believe me." Trent crossed the room in 3 strides. He grabbed her by the arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "You think I'm stupid?" His breath reeked of alcohol. "You think I don't know what you're doing?" "I'm not doing anything." He shoved her against the wall. Her skull cracked against the drywall, and white stars exploded across her vision. "You're fucking someone," Trent snarled, his face inches from hers. "Admit it." "I'm not." His hand closed around her throat. Vivian clawed at his wrist, gasping, but Trent was too strong, too heavy, too far gone. The edges of her vision started to gray. She thought about the black card in her wallet. She thought about Adrian Vale's ice-gray eyes. She thought about how easy it would be to just stop fighting. Then Trent let go. Vivian collapsed to the floor, coughing, sucking in air that tasted like blood and terror. Trent stood over her, breathing hard. "This is your fault," he said. "You make me do this." He walked away. A door slammed. The apartment fell silent. Vivian lay on the floor for a long time, staring at the ceiling, feeling the bruises bloom across her throat. Her phone was still in her purse. She could call the police. She could call a shelter. She could call her sister in Portland, who'd begged her to leave years ago. Or she could call the number on the black card. She pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to unlock the screen. She found the card in her wallet, read the number twice to make sure she had it right. Her thumb hovered over the call button. This was insane. She didn't know Adrian Vale. He could be anyone, a stalker, a predator, someone worse than Trent. But he'd looked at her like she mattered. Vivian pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice, calm, measured, familiar, answered. "Vivian." Her breath caught. "How did you... Are you safe right now?" She looked around the dark apartment, at the broken furniture, at the blood on her hands. "No." "Where are you?" She gave him the address. It felt like stepping off a cliff. "Lock yourself in a room," Adrian said. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. The line went dead. Vivian sat in the dark, phone clutched in her hand, and waited. 19 minutes later, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Heavy, deliberate. Then the front door swung open. Adrian Vale stepped inside. He wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, both broad-shouldered, both dressed in black, both carrying themselves like soldiers. Adrian looked around the apartment, taking in the destruction with a single sweep of those gray eyes. Then he saw Vivian on the floor. "Where is he?" Adrian's voice was quiet, too quiet. Vivian pointed toward the bedroom. Adrian walked down the hallway. One of his men stayed with Vivian, extending a hand to help her up. She took it, legs shaking. From the bedroom came the sound of Trent waking up, confused, angry. "What the fuck?" Then a thud. A crash. Silence. Adrian emerged a minute later, dragging Trent by the collar. Trent was conscious but dazed, blood trickling from his nose. "This is the man who hurt you?" Adrian asked. Vivian nodded, unable to speak. Adrian let go. Trent stumbled, tried to swing at him, and Adrian caught his wrist mid-punch. There was a crack, bone breaking, and Trent screamed. "You're done," Adrian said. "If you come near her again, I'll kill you." He said it the way someone might comment on the weather. Matter of fact. Final. Trent collapsed to his knees, cradling his broken wrist, whimpering. Adrian turned to Vivian. Get your things. Anything you need. We're leaving. Where, somewhere safe. Vivian looked at Trent, sobbing on the floor. She looked at Adrian, this stranger who'd walked into her nightmare and torn it apart with his bare hands. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Hope. She grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started packing. Clothes, toothbrush, the photo of her mother she kept hidden in a drawer. It took less than 5 minutes to gather everything that mattered. When she was done, Adrian led her out of the apartment. One of his men stayed behind. To do what? Vivian didn't ask. The black SUV waiting at the curb was spotless, armored, the kind of vehicle that costs more than most people's houses. Adrian opened the door for her. Vivian climbed inside and the door closed with a sound like a vault ceiling. As they pulled away from the curb, Vivian looked back at the apartment building, the place that had been her prison for 6 years. She didn't feel relief. She felt numb. Adrian sat across from her in the back seat, studying her with those unreadable eyes. You don't know me, Vivian said finally. Why are you doing this? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Because no one did it for her, he said. Her? But Adrian didn't answer. He just looked out the window as the city lights blurred past, and Vivian realized with a cold certainty that she'd just traded one dangerous man for another. The only difference was that this one had saved her life. For now. The SUV wound through the streets of Manhattan, climbing higher and higher until the buildings around them stopped being apartments and started being monuments to wealth. They pulled into an underground garage beneath a tower of black glass and steel. The elevator required a key card. The ride-up was silent except for the hum of machinery. They stopped on the 42nd floor. The elevator doors opened directly into a penthouse that looked like it had been carved from shadows and money. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city, glittering like scattered diamonds. The furniture was minimal, sleek leather, dark wood, everything sharp angles and clean lines. No clutter, no warmth, just control. Guest rooms down the hall, Adrian said. Bathrooms stocked. There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry. Vivian stood in the entryway, still clutching her duffel bag. I don't understand what's happening. You're safe. That's all that matters right now. But why? Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. I have to take this. Make yourself comfortable. We'll talk in the morning. He disappeared into another room, leaving Vivian alone in the penthouse. She walked to the windows and pressed her palm against the glass. 42 floors below, the city pulsed with life, cars and people, and a million stories she'd never know. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of the person sleeping in the next room. But maybe she should be. Well, Vivian woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. Trent, Adrian, the penthouse. She sat up, still dressed in yesterday's clothes. The bedroom was twice the size of her old apartment, furnished with a king bed and modern art that probably cost more than she made in a year. Her phone showed 8 missed calls from Trent and a dozen texts that ranged from apologetic to threatening. She deleted them all and turned off the phone. When she emerged from the bedroom, Adrian was in the kitchen, dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He was making coffee. How do you take it? He asked without turning around. Black. He poured 2 cups and slid one across the marble counter. Vivian took it, cradling the warmth. We need to talk, Adrian said. About what you do. Among other things. Vivian sat on one of the bar stools. You're not just rich. No. What are you? Adrian leaned against the counter, those gray eyes fixed on her. I find men like your husband, men who hurt women, men who think they're untouchable, and I make sure they understand they're not. You're a vigilante. I prefer to think of it as aggressive problem solving. That's not an answer. Adrian's expression didn't change. 8 years ago, I had a friend, Emily. She was married to a man who beat her. She tried to leave 3 times. 3 times he found her and dragged her back. The 4th time she tried to leave, he killed her. Beat her to death in their kitchen while their daughter was at school. Vivian's throat tightened. I had money, Adrian continued. I had resources. I could have helped her, but I didn't know until it was too late. So I made a promise. Every woman I can save, I save. Every man who thinks he can hurt someone and walk away, I prove wrong. How many? Vivian asked. How many what? How many women have you saved? Adrian took a sip of coffee. 17. You're the 18th. Vivian processed that. 17 women, 17 lives pulled out of darkness. And she was just the latest. So what happens now? She asked. You stay here until it's safe. I have people watching Trent. If he tries to find you, I'll know. And then what? I hide forever? No. Then we make sure he can never hurt you again. The way Adrian said it, cold, certain, sent a chill down Vivian's spine. I don't want you to kill him, she said. I wasn't planning to. Adrian set down his cup. Death is too easy. I prefer consequences that last. Before Vivian could respond, Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. What? Vivian asked. Adrian turned the phone toward her. On the screen was a news headline. Local man reports wife missing, suspects foul play. Below it was a photo of Trent Calloway, looking devastated and desperate, standing outside their apartment building surrounded by news cameras. He's claiming I kidnapped you, Adrian said. Vivian's stomach dropped. What? He filed a police report this morning. Says you disappeared last night and he's worried for your safety. That's insane. I left willingly. I know, but the police don't. And if they start digging into my life, they're going to find things I'd rather keep buried. Vivian stared at the headline, at Trent's face twisted into a mask of false concern. He's trying to force me back, she said. Yes. So what do we do? Adrian's phone buzzed again. This time when he looked at it, something shifted in his expression. Something dangerous. Adrian? He looked up at her. Trent just posted your photo on social media. He's offering a $10,000 reward for information on your whereabouts. The room tilted. Vivian grabbed the counter to steady herself. He's making me a target, she whispered. Yes. Why would he? Because he knows I'm protecting you. And he knows that if enough people start looking, eventually someone's going to find you. Vivian's hands shook. The coffee cup rattled against the marble. Adrian moved around the counter and stood in front of her, close enough that she could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. I won't let him take you back, he said. But you need to understand something. The moment you walked through that door, you stepped into my world. And my world doesn't play by the same rules as yours. What does that mean? It means things are going to get worse before they get better. It means people are going to get hurt. And it means you need to decide right now if you trust me enough to see this through. Vivian looked at him. This stranger who'd saved her. This man whose world was built on violence and secrets. She thought about Trent's hands around her throat. She thought about 6 years of fear, and she made a choice. I trust you. Adrian nodded once. Then we fight. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Adrian's team, Vivian learned there were 5 of them, all former military, all loyal to Adrian for reasons she didn't ask about, began systematically dismantling Trent's life. Bank accounts frozen. Credit cards declined. The lease on the apartment flagged for noise complaints. His social media accounts hacked and filled with evidence of his violence. Screenshots of threatening texts, medical reports Vivian had filed and then withdrawn, testimony from neighbors who'd heard the fights. Trent fought back the only way he knew how, by escalating. He showed up at Velvet Rouge and caused a scene, demanding to know where Vivian was. Security escorted him out, but not before he screamed threats loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. He filed a restraining order against Adrian, claiming harassment, stalking, criminal threats. He went on local news and cried, playing the role of the devastated husband whose wife had been stolen by a dangerous man. And through it all, Adrian remained calm. Let him burn himself out, Adrian said one evening as they watched Trent's latest interview on the news. Desperate men make mistakes. Vivian sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest. How long can this go on? As long as it takes. That's not an answer. Adrian looked at her. You want the truth? Until one of us breaks. Either he gives up, or what? Adrian didn't finish the sentence. That night, Vivian couldn't sleep. She wandered through the penthouse, restless and anxious. Around 2 a.m, she found Adrian in his office, a room she hadn't been allowed in before. The door was cracked open. She pushed it wider. The office was lined with filing cabinets and monitors showing security feeds. Adrian sat at a desk covered in documents, typing rapidly on a laptop. "Can't sleep?" he asked without looking up. "No." "Me neither." Vivian stepped inside. On one of the monitors, she could see the entrance to her old apartment building. Another showed the street outside Velvet Rouge. "You've been watching him," she said. "I've been watching everything." "For how long?" Adrian finally looked at her. "Since the first time I saw you at the restaurant, 3 months ago." The admission hit her like cold water. "You've been following me for 3 months?" "Monitoring, not following. There's a difference." "Is there?" Adrian leaned back in his chair. "I saw the bruises. I saw the way you moved like you were trying not to be noticed. And I knew, so I started paying attention. I wasn't going to intervene unless... Unless what? Unless it looked like he might kill you." Vivian's breath caught. "And that night?" "That night, one of my people was watching your building. They saw you leave, saw the state you were in, called me. I made a decision. To save me, to give you a choice. The card was the choice. You called. That was your decision, not mine." Vivian processed that. 3 months. He'd been watching for 3 months, waiting for the right moment. "That's insane," she said. "Probably. You could have just called the police. The police would have arrested him for a night, maybe 2. Then he'd be out on bail and angrier than before. I've seen that pattern 17 times. It never ends well." "So your way is better?" "My way keeps you alive." Vivian didn't have an answer for that. She looked at the monitors again. Trent's apartment was dark. He was probably passed out drunk, like always. "What are you going to do to him?" she asked. Adrian stood and walked to the window. The city sprawled below them, infinite and indifferent. "I'm going to give him a choice," Adrian said. "He can walk away and never come near you again. Or he can keep fighting, and I'll destroy everything he has left. His reputation, his freedom, his future." "And if he chooses to fight?" Adrian turned to look at her, and in his eyes was something cold and absolute. "Then I'll make him wish he'd chosen differently." Before Vivian could respond, every monitor in the office went black. Then they flickered back on, showing a single image on every screen, Vivian's face, and below it a message in red text. "I know where she is." Adrian moved faster than Vivian thought possible, crossing the room and pulling up a different program on his laptop. "What's happening?" Vivian asked, her voice tight. "Someone just hacked my security system." "Trent?" "No, Trent doesn't have this kind of skill. This is someone else." The screens changed again, this time showing a live feed, the lobby of Adrian's building. And standing in front of the camera, staring directly up at them, was a woman Vivian had never seen before. 50s, hard-faced, wearing a leather jacket and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Adrian went very still. "Who is that?" Vivian whispered. "Lorraine Calloway," Adrian said. "Trent's mother." And just like that, everything got infinitely worse. Lorraine Calloway stood in the lobby like she owned it. The security camera caught every detail, the way her hands hung loose at her sides, the leather jacket that had seen too many bar fights, the tattoo crawling up her neck that disappeared into her hairline. She didn't look up at the camera with fear or hesitation. She looked up like she was daring someone to come down and face her. Adrian's fingers moved across the keyboard, pulling up files faster than Vivian could track. "Get away from the window." Vivian didn't move. "Who is she?" "I said get away from the window." The edge in his voice cut through her paralysis. Vivian stepped back into the shadows of the office just as Adrian's phone erupted with calls. He answered without looking at the screen. "Talk to me." A male voice crackled through. "She's alone, no visible weapons. Building security tried to escort her out. She pulled a knife, cut Hansen across the forearm. Not deep, but he's bleeding. She says she's not leaving until she sees her son's wife." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Keep her in the lobby. Don't let her near the elevators. I'm coming down." "Adrian, I'm coming down." He ended the call and turned to Vivian. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me. I'm not hiding while you... This isn't about hiding. Lorraine Calloway spent 8 years in Bedford Hills for stabbing her boyfriend 17 times. She got out 6 months ago. If she's here, it's because Trent sent her." Vivian's stomach lurched. To do what? To finish what he can't. Adrian pulled a gun from a drawer in his desk. Black, compact, brutal in its simplicity. He checked the magazine with practiced efficiency. Locked the door. He left before Vivian could argue. The office fell silent except for the hum of computer fans and her own ragged breathing. Vivian stared at the monitors. On the lobby feed, Lorraine paced like a caged animal. Blood dripped from her knife onto the polished marble floor. Two security guards flanked her at a distance, hands hovering near their belts where Vivian assumed they carried weapons of their own. Adrian appeared on the screen 30 seconds later, stepping out of the elevator with the gun holstered beneath his jacket. He moved toward Lorraine with the same controlled calm Vivian had seen him use on Trent. Measured, deliberate, dangerous. Lorraine saw him coming and smiled. It was the smile of someone who'd spent most of her life waiting for violence. Vivian couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could read the body language. Adrian spoke first, hands visible, posture non-threatening. Lorraine responded with sharp gestures, the knife still in her right hand. Adrian said something else. Lorraine laughed, a harsh, ugly sound that Vivian could almost hear through the screen. Then Lorraine lunged. Adrian sidestepped, caught her wrist, twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. Lorraine drove her knee toward his groin, but Adrian blocked it with his thigh, spun her around, and slammed her face first against the nearest wall. The security guards moved in with zip ties. It was over in less than 5 seconds. Vivian exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. On the monitor, Adrian said something to the guards, then pulled out his phone. 30 seconds later, Vivian's phone buzzed with a text. She's contained. Stay put. Vivian watched as they hauled Lorraine out of frame, still struggling, still shouting. Adrian remained in the lobby, making calls, issuing orders. He didn't look rattled. He looked focused. 20 minutes later, he returned to the penthouse. Vivian met him in the hallway. Is she gone? For now. Adrian locked the door behind him, engaged 3 separate deadbolts. I have people taking her to a facility upstate. She'll be held there until we figure out how to handle this. A facility? What kind of... The kind that doesn't ask questions. Vivian's skin went cold. You can't just kidnap someone. I didn't kidnap her. I removed an immediate threat. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Jesus Christ, Adrian, you can't just... She came here to kill you. Adrian's voice was flat, absolute. She had a knife. She assaulted my security team. And when I asked her why she was here, she said, and I quote, "That bitch destroyed my son's life and I'm going to make her bleed for it. So yes, Vivian, I can and I did." Vivian pressed her palms against her temples. This was spiraling out of control. 1 week ago, she'd been serving wine to rich people and going home to a husband who beat her. Now she was standing in a billionaire's penthouse while he talked about holding people in secret facilities. This is insane, she whispered. This is survival. No, survival is running away. Survival is disappearing. She gestured wildly at the locked door, the security monitors, the gun still holstered under Adrian's jacket. This is war. Yes, it is, and you're already in it whether you want to be or not. Vivian looked at him, really looked at him. The man who'd saved her, the man who'd been watching her for months, the man who spoke about violence like it was a language he'd been fluent in since birth. What happened to you? She asked. I told you, Emily. No, before Emily. What made you into this? Adrian's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something old and scarred. That's not a conversation we're having tonight, he said. When then? Maybe never. He walked past her into the kitchen and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey. Vivian followed. You don't get to do that, she said. You don't get to dig into my life, watch me for months, pull me out of hell, and then refuse to tell me who you really are. Adrian drank the whiskey in 1 swallow. You want the truth? My father was a prosecutor, spent 30 years putting criminals away. He was good at it, too good. When I was 16, one of the men he'd convicted got out early on a technicality, came to our house, shot my father in the driveway while my mother watched from the kitchen window. Vivian's breath caught. They caught the guy 3 days later, Adrian continued, pouring another drink. Sent him back to prison, life sentence this time. But my father was still dead and my mother never recovered. She lived another 10 years, but she wasn't really there, just a ghost moving through rooms. Adrian, so I learned something. He looked at her and his eyes were empty. The system doesn't protect people. It punishes them after the damage is done. And by then, it's too late. Emily confirmed what I already knew. If you wait for justice to arrive, you'll die waiting. Vivian didn't know what to say. The silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Adrian set down his glass. Get some sleep. We'll deal with Lorraine in the morning. What are you going to do with her? Whatever keeps you alive. He left her standing in the kitchen, and Vivian realized with perfect clarity that she'd made a terrible mistake. She hadn't escaped one dangerous man. She'd just traded him for another. Vivian didn't sleep that night. She lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the penthouse, the hum of climate control, the distant wail of sirens 42 floors below, Adrian moving through the other rooms like a restless predator. Around 4 in the morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Heavy breathing, then a voice she knew too well. Vivian? Trent. Her entire body went rigid. How did you get this number? You think I don't have ways? You think you can just disappear and I'll let you go? Trent, my mother's missing. You know anything about that? Vivian's pulse hammered. No. Liar. She went to see you last night. Now she's gone. What did that psycho you're fucking do to her? I don't know what you're talking about. Bullshit, Trent's voice cracked. You think you're safe up there in his tower? You think he can protect you forever? He can't. And when he fails, and he will fail, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to make you wish you'd never left. The line went dead. Vivian sat there in the dark, phone clutched in her shaking hand. Trent knew she was here. He knew about Lorraine. And he was coming. She got out of bed and found Adrian in his office, exactly where she'd left him hours earlier. He was reviewing security footage, making notes on a legal pad. He called me, Vivian said. Adrian looked up. When? Just now. He knows Lorraine came here. He knows she's missing. Adrian swore under his breath. He's escalating faster than I expected. What does that mean? It means we're running out of time. Adrian pulled up a different screen. Financial records, by the look of it. I've been digging into Trent's background. His mother wasn't acting alone. She's connected to a crew out of Queens, drugs, extortion, enforcer work. 3 men, all with records, all loyal to Lorraine. Vivian's legs went weak. She grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. You think they'll come after me? I think they already are. Adrian pointed to another monitor showing a street camera feed. This was taken 2 hours ago, 3 blocks from here. On the screen, a black sedan idled at a red light. Vivian couldn't make out faces, but she could see the silhouettes of multiple occupants. That doesn't prove anything, she said. They've circled this building 4 times in the last 6 hours. That's not coincidence. Vivian sank into a chair. So what do? We move you. Where? I have a safe house in Connecticut, isolated, secure. You'll stay there until this is resolved. And how long will that take? Adrian didn't answer, which was answer enough. Vivian looked at the monitors, at the city waking up beyond the windows, at the life she'd thought she was escaping. I can't run forever. You won't have to. You keep saying that, but everything keeps getting worse. Because Trent's desperate. Desperate men are predictable. He's going to make a mistake. And when he does, I'll be ready. And if he makes a mistake that gets me killed, Adrian met her eyes. That won't happen. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. The certainty in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified her, because she could see what Adrian was willing to do to keep that promise. And it was everything. They moved Vivian to the safe house that afternoon. It was a 2-hour drive through increasingly rural landscape until they reached a property surrounded by woods and protected by a 10-foot fence. The house itself was modern and cold, all concrete and glass, built more like a bunker than a home. 2 of Adrian's men stayed with her, Marcus and Jin. Both former military, both armed, both instructed not to let her leave the property under any circumstances. Adrian stayed for an hour, walking the perimeter, checking security systems, issuing orders. Before he left, he found Vivian standing in the kitchen staring out at the trees. I'll be back tomorrow, he said. Where are you going? To finish this. Adrian, I need you to trust me. Vivian turned to face him. I don't even know you. You know enough. Do I? Because right now, all I know is that you're about to do something terrible and you don't want me to see it. Adrian's expression didn't change, but she saw something shift in his eyes. Confirmation, maybe, or resignation. The less you know, he said quietly, the less they can use against you if this goes wrong. What's going to go wrong? But Adrian was already walking toward the door. He paused in the threshold, looked back at her one last time. Stay inside, don't answer the door, don't call anyone, I'll handle the rest. Then he was gone. Vivian spent the next 12 hours pacing the safe house like a prisoner. Marcus and Jin were professional and distant, responding to her questions with one-word answers. The television didn't work. There was no internet. Her phone had no signal. She was completely cut off. Around midnight, she heard vehicles approaching. Marcus and Jin went on high alert, moving to the windows with weapons drawn. Vivian's heart hammered as headlights swept across the living room. Then the front door opened and Adrian walked in. He looked like he'd been through hell. His shirt was torn. His knuckles were bloody. There was a cut above his left eyebrow that someone had tried to close with butterfly bandages. What happened? Vivian demanded. Adrian didn't answer. He walked past her into the kitchen and started washing his hands in the sink. The water ran pink. Adrian, what did you do? I found Trent. Vivian's stomach dropped. Where? A motel in Queens. He was with 2 of Lorraine's crew. They were planning to grab you tomorrow morning when you went for a run. I don't go for runs. They didn't know that. They were watching the house, trying to learn your routine. I convinced them to stop. Convinced how? Adrian dried his hands, turned to face her. You don't want to know. Yes, I do. One's in the hospital with a shattered knee. One's in custody with enough drugs in his car to put him away for 20 years. The third one got smart and ran. Trent, Adrian paused. Trent's in the wind. What does that mean? It means he saw me coming and disappeared before I could reach him. Vivian felt her knees go weak. So he's still out there. For now. Adrian, this is never going to end. Every time you hurt someone connected to him, he's going to find someone else. His mother, her crew, whoever. He's going to keep coming until what? Until one of you is dead. Adrian didn't deny it. He just looked at her with those cold gray eyes and said, Then I'll make sure it's him. Something inside Vivian snapped. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask you to start a war. I just wanted to be safe. You are safe. No, I'm trapped. There's a difference. Adrian's jaw tightened. What do you want me to do, Vivian? Let him take you back? Let him kill you? Because that's what happens if I stop. You know that. I know that you're turning into the same kind of monster he is. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Adrian's expression didn't change, but Vivian saw the impact. Saw the way his hands curled into fists. Saw the muscle jump in his jaw. Get some sleep, he said finally. We'll talk in the morning. He walked out of the kitchen. A door slammed somewhere deeper in the house. Vivian stood there alone, shaking, wondering when she'd lost control of her own life. The next morning, Vivian woke to find Adrian's SUV gone. Marcus told her he'd left before dawn, no explanation given. She spent the day trying not to think about what he was doing, trying not to imagine the violence unfolding somewhere beyond these walls, trying not to feel responsible. Around 3 in the afternoon, her phone suddenly buzzed with signal. A single bar, barely enough to receive texts. Unknown number. Miss me? Trent. Her hand started shaking. Another text. He can't protect you forever. Then, I'm closer than you think. Vivian ran to Marcus. He's texting me. Trent, he knows I'm here. Marcus took the phone, scanned the messages. Could be a bluff. Could be? He doesn't necessarily know where you are. He might just be trying to spook you into making a mistake. It's working. Marcus returned the phone. Stay calm. Stay inside. Adrian will be back soon. But Adrian didn't come back that night, or the next morning. By noon the following day, Vivian was climbing the walls. Where is he? Handling business, Jin said. He'll call when he can. That's not good enough. I need to talk to him. Phone's not secure. I don't care. Give me his number. Jin hesitated, then rattled off a number. Vivian dialed with shaking fingers. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. No greeting, just a beep. Adrian, it's me. Trent's texting me. He says he's close. I don't know what to do. Please call me back. She hung up and waited. An hour passed, then 2. At 4:30, her phone rang. Adrian. Are you okay? He asked. No, Trent keeps texting me. He says he knows where I am. He doesn't. He's fishing. How do you know? Because if he knew, he'd already be dead. The casual way Adrian said it made Vivian's blood run cold. Where are you? Following a lead. I'll be back tonight. Adrian, I have to go. Stay inside. I'll see you soon. The line went dead. Vivian threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. Marcus picked up the pieces without comment. Adrian returned around midnight, looking worse than before. He had a bruise blooming along his jawline and he was favoring his left side like he'd cracked a rib. Vivian was waiting in the living room. What happened to you? Found one of Lorraine's crew. He didn't want to talk. So you made him? Eventually? And? Adrian lowered himself carefully onto the couch. Trent's planning something. The guy didn't know details, but he mentioned a name. Rourke. Sean Rourke, ex-military, works as a fixer for people who need problems solved. Vivian's stomach twisted. Trent hired a hitman? Not exactly. Rourke doesn't kill people. He finds them. And once he finds them, he hands them over to whoever paid him. To Trent. Yes. Vivian sank into a chair across from him. How much time do we have? I don't know. Could be days, could be hours. Rourke's good at what he does. So what's the plan? I find him first. And then? Adrian looked at her, and she saw something new in his expression. Not anger, not determination, exhaustion. I don't know anymore, he admitted. Every time I cut off one head, 2 more grow back. Trent's connected to more people than I anticipated. His mother's crew, this Rourke guy, whoever else he's paying. I can't fight them all at once. It was the first time Vivian had heard him sound uncertain, the first crack in the armor. Maybe it's time to stop fighting, she said quietly. What's the alternative? We run, leave the city, change our names, disappear completely. Adrian shook his head. Rourke would find us. That's what he does. And even if we managed to stay hidden, Trent would spend the rest of his life looking. You'd never be free. You'd just be running. I'm already running. No, you're surviving. There's a difference. Vivian wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that all of this, the violence, the fear, the constant looking over her shoulder, would eventually lead somewhere better. But she couldn't see it anymore. All she saw was blood. The attack came 3 nights later. Vivian was asleep when the glass shattered. She jerked awake to the sound of gunfire and men shouting. Marcus burst into her room, weapon drawn. Get down. Stay down. He dragged her out of bed and pushed her into the bathroom. Lock the door. Don't come out until I say it's clear. What's happening, Maso? Now. Vivian scrambled into the bathroom and locked the door. Through the walls, she could hear chaos. More gunfire. Something heavy hitting the floor. A man screaming. Then silence. Footsteps approached the bathroom door. Slow, deliberate. Vivian. Not Marcus, not Jin. A voice she didn't recognize. Vivian, I know you're in there. Open the door. She pressed herself against the far wall, barely breathing. I'm not going to hurt you. Trent just wants to talk. More footsteps. Someone else entering the room. She's not coming out, Rourke. That voice she knew. Trent. Then we go in. The doorknob rattled. Vivian looked around frantically for anything she could use as a weapon. There was nothing except towels and toiletries. The door exploded inward in a shower of splinters. 2 men stood in the doorway. One was tall and rangy with military short hair and dead eyes. The other was Trent, looking worse than Vivian had ever seen him, gaunt, wild-eyed, barely holding himself together. Hey, baby, Trent said. Miss me? Vivian tried to run, but Rourke was faster. He grabbed her arm and hauled her out of the bathroom. She fought, kicking and scratching, but he didn't even flinch. He just twisted her arm behind her back until she gasped in pain. Where's Marcus? She managed to ask. Where's Jin? Trent smiled. It was the smile of a man who'd lost everything and stopped caring. sleeping, permanently. You killed them. They were in the way. Rourke zip-tied Vivian's wrists and pushed her toward the door. Let's move. Vale's on his way. How do you... I triggered the silent alarm 15 minutes ago, Rourke said. He'll be here soon, and I'd rather not be here when he arrives. They dragged Vivian through the house. In the living room, she saw Marcus and Jin on the floor, zip-tied and unconscious, but breathing. Not dead. Trent had lied. Small comfort. They pulled her outside into the cold night. A van idled in the driveway, rear doors open. Get in, Trent said. No. He hit her. Not hard enough to knock her down, but hard enough to split her lip. Get in. Rourke shoved her into the van. Trent climbed in after her. The doors slammed shut and the van lurched forward. Vivian tasted blood. Her wrists burned where the zip ties cut into skin. Through the van's windows, she could see the safe house receding into darkness, and somewhere in the distance, headlights approaching fast. Adrian. Too late. Trent saw her looking and laughed. He can't save you this time, baby. Nobody can. The van accelerated, and Vivian understood with perfect, terrible clarity that she'd reached the point of no return. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. Not for any of them. The van rattled over potholes and cracked asphalt, throwing Vivian against the metal wall with every turn. Her wrists screamed where the zip ties dug into flesh. Blood from her split lip dripped onto her shirt, leaving dark stains that spread like spilled ink. Trent sat across from her, knees bouncing with nervous energy, eyes gleaming with something between triumph and madness. Rourke drove in silence, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror like he was checking to see if they were being followed. They were. Vivian knew it. Adrian would come. He always came. But the question gnawing at her gut was whether he'd arrive in time. Where are you taking me? Vivian's voice came out rougher than she intended. Trent smiled. It was the smile he used to give her when he was about to do something cruel and wanted her to know it was coming. Somewhere private, somewhere we can talk without your psycho boyfriend interrupting. He's not my boyfriend. No? What is he then? Your savior? Trent leaned forward, close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath. Let me tell you something about Adrian Vale. He doesn't save people. He collects them. You're just another broken thing he picked up to make himself feel like less of a monster. You don't know anything about him. I know more than you think. Trent's smile widened. I know he's been watching you for months. I know he has a whole filing cabinet full of women he's saved. I know that every single one of them ended up worse off than when he found them. Vivian's pulse stuttered. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself why a billionaire with unlimited resources spends his nights hunting down abusive husbands. What kind of man does that? What's he really getting out of it? The question wormed its way into Vivian's skull and wouldn't leave. She'd asked herself the same thing a dozen times over the past 2 weeks. Adrian's explanation about Emily, about his father, it made sense on the surface, but there was always something underneath it, something he wasn't telling her. He saved my life, she said. He put a target on your back. Before Vale showed up, I was just a drunk asshole who pushed you around. Now my mother's missing, half her crew is dead or in prison, and I've got nothing left to lose. You think that makes you safer? Vivian wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Because Trent was right. Everything had gotten worse since Adrian entered her life. The violence had escalated, the danger had multiplied. But going back to Trent wasn't an option either. She was trapped between two kinds of hell, and neither one offered escape. The van turned sharply, tires squealing. Through the small window behind Rourke's head, Vivian caught a glimpse of industrial buildings and chain-link fences. They were somewhere in Brooklyn, maybe, or Queens, somewhere far from the safe house, somewhere Adrian would have trouble finding. The van stopped. Rourke killed the engine. We're here, he said. Trent grabbed Vivian by the arm and hauled her out. They were in a warehouse district, all concrete and rust and broken windows. The building in front of them looked abandoned, graffiti-covered walls, boarded-up doors, weeds growing through cracks in the loading dock. Rourke pulled open a side entrance and gestured for them to go inside. The interior smelled like mildew and motor oil. Rourke led them through a maze of hallways lit by battery-powered work lights until they reached what looked like an old office. Someone had set up folding chairs and a card table. On the table sat a laptop, a cell phone, and a gun. Trent shoved Vivian into one of the chairs. Rourke pulled out a knife and cut the zip ties binding her wrists. "Don't try to run," Rourke said. "There's nowhere to go." Vivian rubbed her wrists, feeling the blood flow return in painful pins and needles. "What do you want?" Trent pulled up a chair across from her. "I want my life back." "I can't give you that." "No, but he can." Trent pointed at the laptop. "Adrian Vale. He's got the resources to fix this. Get the charges dropped. Get my mother released. Make all of this go away." "He'll never do that." "He will if he wants you alive." Vivian's stomach turned to ice. "You're going to ransom me. Call it whatever you want. The point is, Vale gets a choice. He can keep playing hero and watch you die. Or he can undo the damage he caused and you get to walk away. And you really think he'll believe you? That you'll just let me go?" Trent's expression hardened. "I don't give a shit what he believes. I just want my life back. After that, you can do whatever you want. Stay with him. Leave the city. I don't care. I just want this to be over." There was something in his voice that almost sounded genuine, almost sounded like the Trent she'd married 7 years ago, before the drinking consumed everything, before the violence became routine. But Vivian knew better than to trust it. Rourke opened the laptop and typed something. "Vale's been calling your phone nonstop. 12 missed calls in the last hour. He's looking for you." "Let him look," Trent said. "We're not contacting him until we're ready." "And when's that?" "When I figure out exactly what I want to say." Rourke shook his head. "You're wasting time. The longer we wait, the more chance he has to find this place." "He won't find it. You said this location's clean." "Nothing's clean forever, especially not when Adrian Vale's hunting you." The way Rourke said Adrian's name, with something between respect and fear, made Vivian's pulse quicken. Rourke wasn't just some hired gun. He knew Adrian. Maybe not personally, but well enough to be cautious. "How much is Trent paying you?" Vivian asked. Rourke glanced at her. "Enough." "I doubt that. Whatever he's offering, Adrian can pay more." "Money's not the issue." "Then what is?" Rourke didn't answer. He turned back to the laptop, scrolling through something Vivian couldn't see. Trent stood and started pacing. His hands shook. He kept touching his pocket like he was checking for something. Pills, probably. Or a flask. "You need to calm down," Rourke said without looking up. "Don't tell me to calm down. My entire life is falling apart." "And whose fault is that?" Trent whirled on him. "What did you say?" Rourke finally looked up, his expression flat and unreadable. "You heard me. You had a wife, a job, a life, and you destroyed it all yourself. Vale didn't make you hit her. Vale didn't make you drink yourself into oblivion every night. You did that." Trent's face went red. "You don't know shit about my life." "I know enough. I know you're a coward who beats women and blames everyone else for his problems." "Then why are you helping me?" "Because your mother paid me to. And unlike you, I honor my contracts." The mention of Lorraine made Vivian's pulse spike. "Where is she? What did Adrian do with her?" Rourke's eyes shifted to her. "You really don't know?" "Know what?" Trent stopped pacing. "Don't." "She has a right to know," Rourke said. "Don't," Trent repeated, louder this time. But Rourke was already reaching for the laptop. He turned it toward Vivian, showing her a news article from 2 days ago. The headline read, "Woman's body found in Hudson River, identified as Lorraine Calloway." Vivian's vision blurred. She read the first paragraph 3 times before the words made sense. Lorraine Calloway, age 53, was found deceased in the Hudson River near the George Washington Bridge. Police are investigating the death as a possible homicide. Calloway had been reported missing by family members 3 days prior. "No," Vivian whispered. "Adrian killed her," Trent said. His voice was hollow. "He took her to that facility you were talking about, and when she wouldn't tell him where I was hiding, he killed her and dumped her body in the river." Vivian looked up at him. "You don't know that." "The police found bruising consistent with restraints, signs of prolonged stress. She was tortured, Vivian, and then she was executed." "Adrian wouldn't what? Wouldn't kill someone? You've seen what he's capable of. You know what he does to people who get in his way." Vivian's hands started shaking. She thought about Adrian's cold certainty, the way he talked about violence like it was a business transaction, the gun he carried, the men who followed his orders without question. She thought about Marcus and Jen on the floor of the safe house, She thought about the blood on Adrian's hands every time he came back from handling business. He told me she was being held, Vivian said. He said she was safe. He lied, Trent said simply, just like he's been lying to you about everything else. You're lying. You're trying to manipulate me. Trent pulled out his phone and brought up another article. Then another. Then a police statement confirming the investigation. All of them said the same thing. Lorraine Calloway was dead. And the circumstances pointed to murder. Vivian felt something crack inside her chest. I need to talk to him. No, Trent said. I need to hear him say it. What difference does it make? You already know the truth. I don't know anything. All I have is your word and some news articles that don't prove he did it. Rourke closed the laptop. She's right. We need confirmation, and we need leverage. Let her call him. Trent looked like he wanted to argue, but after a moment he nodded. Fine, but I'm listening to every word. Rourke handed Vivian the cell phone from the table. You've got 2 minutes. Make it count. Vivian's fingers trembled as she dialed Adrian's number. It rang once before he answered. Vivian, where are you? His voice was ragged, desperate. She'd never heard him sound like that before. I'm alive, she said. That's all you need to know right now. Are you hurt? No, but we need to talk. Tell me where you are. I'll come get you. Not yet. First, I need you to answer a question, and I need the truth, Adrian. No more lies. Silence on the other end, then, what's the question? Lorraine Calloway, is she dead? The pause that followed was answer enough. Yes, Adrian said finally. Vivian closed her eyes. Did you kill her? It's not that simple. It's a yes or no question. Vivian, did you kill her? Another pause, longer this time. Yes. The word hit her like a physical blow. She'd known it was possible. She'd suspected, but hearing him admit it made it real. Why? She whispered. Because she was planning to kill you. She told me herself. She had a list. You were at the top. I couldn't let that happen. So you murdered her. I protected you. By becoming a killer. I was already a killer, Vivian. I've never pretended to be anything else. Trent was watching her face, reading every reaction. Rourke stood by the door, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Where's her body? Vivian asked. The police found it 2 days ago. It's being processed as evidence. Evidence of what you did. Evidence of what had to be done. Vivian's hand tightened around the phone until her knuckles went white. You told me she was being held. You told me she was safe. I told you what you needed to hear. You lied to me. Yes. At least he wasn't denying it anymore. At least he was finally being honest. What else have you lied about? Vivian asked. Nothing that matters. Everything matters. The other women you saved, Emily, your father, all of it. How much of it was true? All of it. I just left out the parts you weren't ready to hear. Like the fact that you're a murderer. I never hid that from you. You saw the blood on my hands. You knew what I was doing. You just didn't want to acknowledge it. He was right. She had known. Deep down, beneath the denial and the desperate need to believe she'd been saved by someone good, she'd known exactly what Adrian was. She just hadn't wanted to face it. Trent wants to make a deal, Vivian said. No deals. Tell me where you are. He says you can undo the damage, get the charges dropped, get his life back to normal. In exchange, he lets me go. He's lying. The moment I give him what he wants, he'll kill you. Maybe. Or maybe he's telling the truth, and you're the one who can't let go. Vivian, listen to me very carefully. Trent Calloway is unstable and dangerous. He's already lost everything. He has nothing left to lose. That makes him unpredictable. And what does that make you? Adrian went silent. You've lost things too, Vivian continued. Your father, your friend Emily, whatever else you're not telling me. And you've turned that loss into a crusade. You collect broken women and you wage war against their abusers because it makes you feel like you're fixing something that can't be fixed. But you're not saving anyone, Adrian. You're just spreading the damage around. That's not true, isn't it? I was surviving before you found me. It wasn't a good life, but it was survivable. Now I'm caught between my abusive husband and a vigilante billionaire who kills people. Tell me how that's better. Because you're free. I'm not free. I'm just trapped in a different cage. She heard Adrian's breathing change on the other end. Faster, shallower. Please, he said, just tell me where you are. It was the first time she'd heard him beg, and it broke something inside her. I don't know, she admitted. Some warehouse, Brooklyn or Queens, maybe? Rourke drove. I couldn't see where we were going. Rourke's there? Yes. Put him on. Vivian looked at Rourke. He wants to talk to you. Rourke took the phone. Vale? Whatever Adrian said made Rourke's expression tighten. He listened for 30 seconds without interrupting, then said, That was a long time ago. Things change. More listening. I'm aware of the risks. A pause. Then I guess we'll find out. Rourke ended the call and handed the phone back to Vivian. What did he say? Trent demanded. He said if anything happens to her, he'll hunt me down and kill me. Standard Vale threats. Nothing I haven't heard before. You've dealt with him before? Vivian asked. Once. About 5 years ago. Different circumstances. We reached an understanding. What kind of understanding? The kind where we both walked away alive. Trent started pacing again. This is bullshit. He's not going to negotiate. He's going to find us and he's going to kill us both. Probably, Rourke agreed. Then what's the fucking plan? We move. Find somewhere he won't think to look. Buy ourselves time to figure out the next step. There is no next step. This is over. We lost. You lost, Rourke corrected. I'm just trying to get paid. Trent grabbed the gun off the table and pointed it at Rourke. You're not leaving. You're finishing this. Rourke didn't flinch. Point that somewhere else. Make me. Trent, don't, Vivian said. But Trent was beyond listening. His hands shook. Sweat dripped down his face. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. I've lost everything, he said. My wife, my mother, my life. And it's all because of Adrian fucking Vale. So either you help me kill him, or I kill you and do it myself. Rourke's expression didn't change. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clear. For the first time in months, I know exactly what I need to do. He turned the gun toward Vivian. Her heart stopped. Call him back, Trent said. Tell him if he wants you alive, he meets me. Alone. No weapons, no backup. Just him and me. Trent, do it. Vivian's hand shook as she dialed. Adrian answered on the first ring. Vivian? He wants to meet you, alone. He says if you don't come, he'll kill me. Where? Trent rattled off an address. Some pier in Red Hook, abandoned, isolated. 1 hour, Trent said loud enough for Adrian to hear. You show up alone or she dies. Adrian's voice was cold as winter. If you hurt her, there won't be anywhere on earth you can hide from me. Then I guess you better come alone. Trent grabbed the phone and threw it against the wall. It shattered into pieces. Now we wait, he said. Vivian looked at Rourke. You're just going to let this happen? Rourke shrugged. I'm getting paid either way. He's going to kill both of them. You know that, right? Trent's not stable enough to handle this. Not my problem. Vivian wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to do anything except sit here and wait for Adrian to walk into a trap. But there was nowhere to go. Trent kept the gun pointed at her while they loaded back into the van. Rourke drove. The warehouse district gave way to industrial waterfront, all rusted shipping containers and crumbling piers. They parked near an abandoned fish processing plant. The smell of rot hung thick in the air. The pier stretched out into the dark water, wood creaking under its own weight. Trent dragged Vivian out onto the pier. The boards groaned beneath their feet. At the far end, maybe 50 yards out, Trent stopped. This is good, he said. Rourke stayed near the van, leaning against the hood, watching. Vivian's mind raced. She could try to fight. She could try to run. But Trent had the gun and Rourke would stop her before she made it 10 feet. So she waited. 20 minutes passed. Then headlights appeared in the distance. A black SUV pulled into the lot and stopped. The driver's door opened. Adrian stepped out. He was alone. No weapons visible. Hands at his sides. Trent pressed the gun against Vivian's temple. That's close enough. Adrian stopped 30 feet away. His eyes met Vivian's across the distance. She saw something in them she'd never seen before. Fear. Let her go, Trent. Why should I? Because this isn't about her. This is about us. You and me. Let her walk away and we'll settle this ourselves. Settle it how? You going to undo everything you've done? Bring my mother back from the dead? No. Then there's nothing to settle. Adrian took a slow step forward. You want revenge. I understand that. But killing her won't give you what you're looking for. How do you know what I'm looking for? Because I've been where you are. I've lost people. I've wanted someone to pay for it. And I've learned that revenge doesn't fix anything. It just spreads the pain around. Trent laughed. It was a broken, desperate sound. You're lecturing me about spreading pain? You killed my mother. You destroyed my life. And now you're standing there telling me revenge is wrong? I'm telling you it won't help. Trust me, I've tried. I don't give a shit about your wisdom, Vale. I just want you to suffer the way I've suffered. Adrian's expression didn't change. Then shoot me. Let Vivian go and shoot me. I won't fight back. I won't run. You want me to pay? Fine. I'll pay. Just let her walk away first. Vivian's breath caught. Adrian, don't. It's okay, Adrian said, still looking at Trent. This was always going to end here. We both knew that. Trent's hands shook. The gun wavered against Vivian's head. She could feel his pulse racing through the tremor in his arms. You think I won't do it? Trent asked. I think you will, Adrian said. I think you're too far gone to stop yourself. But before you do, I need to tell you something. I don't want to hear, your mother wasn't tortured, she wasn't restrained, and she wasn't executed. Trent went very still. The night I took her from the lobby, I brought her to a private facility upstate. She was held there for 24 hours while I tried to convince her to walk away, to leave you alone, to stop pushing this war. She refused, said she'd rather die than let you lose. So I gave her a choice, prison or exile. I'd pay for her to leave the country. New identity, clean slate. She just had to disappear and never contact you again. Vivian could barely breathe. She took the deal, Adrian continued. I put her on a plane to Mexico 2 days ago, gave her $50,000 and documentation for a new life. She's alive, Trent. I didn't kill her. You're lying. Check the news reports. The body they found in the river? It's been identified through dental records, but those records were falsified. I have contacts in the medical examiner's office. They confirmed death on paper so Lorraine could disappear without anyone looking for her. Trent was shaking his head. That's not... The articles say what I paid them to say. Your mother's alive, she's free, and she's never coming back. That's the price she paid for your life. The gun fell away from Vivian's head. Trent stared at Adrian, and Vivian watched something fundamental break inside him. You're lying, he whispered. I'm not. Call her if you don't believe me. I'll give you the number. Adrian pulled out his phone, but before he could do anything else, Rourke's voice cut through the night. That's enough. Everyone turned. Rourke stood 20 feet away, holding a rifle aimed directly at Adrian's chest. Rourke, what are you doing? Trent demanded. Finishing the job I was paid for. Rourke's voice was flat. Lorraine gave me explicit instructions. If Adrian Vale showed up, I was to kill him. No negotiations, no deals, just a bullet. Adrian didn't move. She paid you before she left. She did, and I always deliver. Even when the person who hired you is safely in another country and couldn't care less whether you follow through? Especially then. That's what separates professionals from amateurs, follow through. The rifle didn't waver. Vivian saw Adrian's muscles tense, saw him calculating angles and distances, saw him realize there was no way to cross 20 feet before Rourke pulled the trigger. Let Vivian go first, Adrian said. No. She's not part of this. She's part of everything. The moment you pulled her out of that apartment, you made her part of your world, and your world ends here. Rourke's finger tightened on the trigger, and Vivian made a choice. She threw herself at Trent, grabbing for the gun still clutched in his hand. Everything exploded into chaos. The gun went off. A bullet whined past her ear. Trent screamed. Adrian was moving, covering the distance in seconds. Rourke's rifle cracked. Adrian hit the ground. Vivian couldn't tell if he'd been hit or if he'd dropped on purpose. She wrestled the gun away from Trent and turned it on Rourke just as he was lining up another shot. Don't, she said. Rourke looked at her, really looked at her, saw the gun aimed at his center mass, saw her finger on the trigger, saw that she meant it. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Adrian rose from the ground, blood streaming from his left shoulder but otherwise intact. Lower the rifle, Rourke. Can't do that. You miss your shot. The contract's void. Walk away. That's not how this works. It is now. Rourke's eyes shifted between Adrian and Vivian, calculating. Finally, he lowered the rifle. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Adrian said quietly. It is. Rourke backed toward the van, rifle still in hand but pointed at the ground. He climbed in and drove away without another word, which left Vivian and Adrian standing on a rotting pier with Trent collapsed between them, crying like a child. Adrian pressed his hand against his shoulder wound, blood seeping between his fingers. Are you hurt? Vivian shook her head. She was still holding the gun. Her hands had stopped shaking. Put it down, Adrian said gently. She looked at the weapon in her hands, looked at Trent sobbing on the dock, looked at Adrian bleeding and broken but still standing, and she made one more choice. She threw the gun into the river. I'm done, she said, with all of this, with you, with him, with everything. Adrian's expression didn't change. Vivian, you lied to me, about Lorraine, about what you were doing, about all of it. I was protecting you. No. You were controlling me, just like Trent did. Different methods, same result. That's not fair, isn't it? You watched me for months. You pulled me into your war. You killed someone and lied about it. How is that different from what he did? Adrian opened his mouth, closed it, had no answer. Vivian turned to walk away. Where will you go? Adrian asked. I don't know. Somewhere far from both of you. You won't make it a week. Rourke's still out there. Lorraine's crew. Other people connected to Trent. They'll find you. Then I'll deal with it. How? Vivian looked back at him one last time. The same way I've been dealing with everything else. By surviving. She walked off the pier, past Trent's broken form, past the bloodstains on the wood, past the wreckage of everything she'd thought would save her. And she didn't look back. Behind her, she heard Adrian call her name one more time. But she kept walking. Because she'd finally understood the truth. She'd never needed someone to save her. She'd needed to save herself. And that meant leaving both of them behind. Vivian made it 3 blocks before her legs gave out. She collapsed against a brick wall in an alley that smelled like piss and rotting garbage, her lungs burning, her vision swimming. The adrenaline that had carried her off that pier was draining away, leaving nothing but exhaustion and the crushing weight of what she'd just done. She'd walked away from both of them, from Trent's broken sobs, from Adrian's bleeding shoulder and those gray eyes that had watched her leave without trying to stop her. She was alone. Completely alone. And she had no idea what to do next. Her phone was gone, shattered in the warehouse. Her wallet was back at the safe house. She had no money, no ID, nothing except the clothes on her back and the knowledge that somewhere out there, Rourke was still hunting. Vivian pushed herself off the wall and kept moving. She needed to get off the streets, needed to find somewhere safe. But where? She couldn't go back to her old apartment, couldn't go to friends. She'd lost touch with most of them over the years Trent had isolated her. Couldn't go to her sister in Portland without putting her in danger. She was a ghost in her own city. A car slowed beside her, black sedan, tinted windows. Vivian's pulse spiked. She started walking faster. The car matched her pace. The passenger window rolled down. A woman's voice called out, Vivian Mercer? Vivian didn't stop, didn't look. We're not here to hurt you. Adrian sent us. That made her stop. She turned to face the car. The woman in the passenger seat was mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, professional but not corporate. Military bearing, one of Adrian's people. He can go to hell, Vivian said. Probably, but first he needs to make sure you're safe. I don't need his protection anymore. Rourke's crew has been activated. 3 men, all looking for you. They've got photos, they've got your description, and they've got orders to bring you in alive. Vivian's stomach dropped. Bring me where? We don't know. But alive means they want to use you for something. Leverage, probably. Against Vale or against Trent. Either way, you're a target. So what? I'm supposed to just trust Adrian again? After everything? The woman shrugged. You're supposed to stay alive. How you do that is up to you, but standing on a street corner at 2 a.m. makes you an easy mark. Vivian looked around. The street was empty except for a homeless man pushing a shopping cart and a couple fighting outside a bodega. No backup, no plan, no options. "Get in," the woman said. Vivian hesitated. This could be a trap. Could be Adrian trying to pull her back into his world. Could be anything. But the alternative was standing here waiting for Rourke's people to find her. She got in. The woman driving was younger, blonde, silent. She pulled away from the curb without a word. The woman in the passenger seat turned to face Vivian. "My name's Carter. That's Hayes. We work for Adrian." "Doing what?" "Whatever needs doing." That's not an answer. Carter's expression didn't change. "It's the only one you're getting. Adrian wants you safe. That's our job. Where you go after that is your call." "Where is he?" "Hospital, getting his shoulder patched up. He'll live." Vivian felt something twist in her chest. Relief, maybe, or guilt. She wasn't sure anymore. "Where are you taking me?" "Somewhere Rourke won't think to look. At least not right away. After that, we can arrange transport. Out of the city, out of the state. Whatever you need." "And what does Adrian want in exchange?" Carter met her eyes. "Nothing. He said to get you safe and let you decide what comes next. No strings." Vivian wanted to believe that. But she'd learned the hard way that nothing came without strings. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving Brooklyn behind and heading into New Jersey. The landscape shifted from urban sprawl to industrial parks to scattered residential neighborhoods. Finally, they pulled into the parking lot of a cheap motel, the kind with hourly rates and no questions asked. Hayes parked near the back. Carter handed Vivian a key. "Room 23. There's food in the mini fridge, clothes in the closet, phone on the nightstand. It's clean. Can't be traced back to you or Adrian." "How long do I have?" "As long as you need, but I'd recommend moving within 48 hours. Rourke's good at what he does. He'll find this place eventually." Vivian took the key. "Why are you helping me?" "Because Adrian pays us to." "That's it? Just money?" Carter's expression softened slightly. "He saved my life once, got me out of a situation I couldn't escape on my own. So when he asks me to do something, I do it, no questions." Another one. Another woman Adrian had saved. Another piece of his collection. "Did it work out for you?" Vivian asked. "After he saved you?" Carter thought about it. "I'm alive. That's more than I would have been otherwise. Whether that's better or worse depends on the day." Vivian climbed out of the car. Carter rolled down the window. "One more thing. There's an envelope on the bed, cash and documentation. Enough to disappear if that's what you want." "Adrian's idea?" "His orders. He said you deserve a choice." The car pulled away, leaving Vivian standing in the parking lot of a motel that looked like it had been abandoned by Hope decades ago. She found room 23 and let herself inside. The room smelled like cigarettes and bleach. The bed sagged in the middle, but it was clean enough. And it was empty. And right now that was all she needed. The envelope sat on the bed exactly where Carter said it would be. Vivian opened it. $5,000 in cash. A driver's license with her photo, but a different name, Claire Morgan. A social security card. A credit card. Everything she needed to vanish. Vivian sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the documents. This was it. Her way out. She could take the money, take the new identity, and disappear into some small town where nobody knew her and nobody cared about her past. She could be free. But something gnawed at her, something that wouldn't let go. Trent was still out there. Broken, maybe. Beaten, definitely. But alive. And as long as he was alive, some part of her would always be running. And Rourke. He'd tried to kill Adrian, would have succeeded if Vivian hadn't intervened. And now he was hunting her, which meant he wouldn't stop until someone stopped him. Walking away wouldn't end this. It would just delay the inevitable. Vivian picked up the phone Carter had left. It had one number saved in the contacts. No name, just digits. She dialed. Adrian answered on the second ring. "Are you safe?" "For now." "Good." His voice was rough, tired. "Carter said you made it to the safe house." "It's a motel. It's safe. That's all that matters." Vivian took a breath. "I need to ask you something, and I need the truth." "Okay?" "Rourke. How dangerous is he?" "Very. Why?" "Because he's hunting me, and he won't stop until I'm dead, or he is. You know that, right?" Adrian was quiet for a moment. "Yes." So what happens now? I run forever? I hide in cheap motels and look over my shoulder for the rest of my life? No. I'll handle Rourke. How? The same way I've handled everyone else who's come after you. By killing him, if necessary. And what if it's not necessary? What if there's another way? There isn't. Not with Rourke. He's a professional. He doesn't quit. He doesn't negotiate. He finishes contracts. That's what makes him good at what he does. Vivian's grip tightened on the phone. Then I want to help. Silence. Adrian? No. I'm not asking for permission. I don't care. The answer is no. You're out. You walked away. That was the right choice. Don't undo it now. I'm not undoing anything. I'm finishing it. There's a difference. Vivian, you don't understand what you're asking. Going after Rourke means what? Violence? Blood? I've already lived through that. I've already seen what you're capable of. I've already made choices that can't be unmade. So don't tell me I don't understand. I understand perfectly. Adrian's breathing changed, faster, sharper. Why? He asked finally. Why risk yourself like this? Because I'm tired of being the victim. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of waiting for men to decide whether I live or die. You gave me a choice, Adrian. This is me choosing. Another long silence. Then, meet me tomorrow. I'll send coordinates. We'll talk. No more talking. I'm done talking. Either you let me help or I go after Rourke myself. You wouldn't last 5 minutes. Then teach me. You've got 24 hours. After that, I'm gone. With or without you. She hung up before he could argue. Her hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from something else. Something that felt like rage and determination mixed together until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. She looked at the envelope full of cash and fake documents. Then she shoved it in the nightstand drawer and left it there. The coordinates Adrian sent led Vivian to an industrial park in Newark. Abandoned warehouses and chain-link fences stretched in every direction. Hayes picked her up from the motel at dawn and drove without speaking. They pulled up to a building that looked like every other building, concrete, graffiti, broken windows. But when Vivian stepped inside, she realized it was anything but abandoned. The main floor had been converted into something between a gym and an armory. Punching bags hung from reinforced beams. Weapon racks lined the walls. Shooting targets were set up at the far end. Adrian stood in the center of it all, wearing a black t-shirt that showed the bandage on his left shoulder. His face was drawn, exhausted, but his eyes were sharp. You came, he said. I said I would. People say a lot of things. Vivian walked toward him, closing the distance until they were 5 feet apart. I mean what I say, always have. Adrian studied her face like he was looking for something. Finally, he nodded. Okay, then we start now. Start what? Teaching you how to survive what comes next. He led her to the shooting range, laid out 3 handguns on a table, different sizes, different weights. Pick one, he said. Vivian had never held a gun before the pier, had never wanted to. But she reached out and picked up the smallest one. It was heavier than she expected. That's a Glock 43, 9mm, 8-round capacity, good for concealment, easy to control. Adrian moved behind her, adjusting her grip. Dominant hand here. Support hand wraps around, elbows slightly bent, shoulders forward. His hands were warm against hers. Professional. Impersonal. Sight alignment, he continued. Front sight, rear sight, target. All 3 line up. Breathe. Squeeze the trigger. Don't pull. Squeeze. Vivian focused on the target 30 feet away. A paper silhouette. She squeezed. The gun kicked. The bullet went wide, punching through the wall 10 feet left of the target. Again, Adrian said. She fired. Missed again. Again. 5 shots, 5 misses. Vivian lowered the gun, frustrated. This is pointless. I can't hit anything. Not yet, but you will. Reload. He showed her how to drop the magazine, how to load it, how to chamber a round. They spent the next hour doing nothing but reloading and dry firing until her hands moved on muscle memory. Then they moved to close combat. Adrian stood facing her in the center of the mat. Rourke's bigger than you, stronger, trained. If he gets his hands on you, you're dead, so don't let him. How? Distance, speed, angles. You can't overpower him, so you outmaneuver him. And if that fails, Adrian handed her a knife. You make sure he can't get back up. The knife was small. Folding blade fit easily in her palm. Where do I cut? Vivian asked. Adrian pointed to different parts of his body. Throat, inside of the thigh, armpit, groin, places where major arteries run close to the surface. You don't need to kill him. You just need to make him bleed fast enough that he can't chase you. He demonstrated the movements. How to hold the knife. How to slash instead of stab. How to create distance after the strike. Vivian practiced on a dummy. Over and over until her arm ached. They worked for 6 hours straight. Shooting, fighting, planning. Adrian laid out everything he knew about Rourke. His patterns, his methods, his weaknesses. He's patient, Adrian said. He'll watch you for days before making a move. He'll learn your routine, your habits, and then he'll strike when you're most vulnerable. So we don't give him days. What do you mean? Vivian set down the knife. We make him come to us, on our terms, our ground. Adrian's expression shifted. You want to set a trap. Yes. Using you as bait. Yes. No. Adrian, I said no. It's too dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. At least this way we control the variables. Adrian ran his hand through his hair. The exhaustion was catching up with him. You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking to finish this. Once and for all. No more running, no more hiding. We end it. And if it goes wrong? Then it goes wrong, but at least I'll have fought back. At least I'll have tried. Adrian looked at her for a long time. Vivian could see him calculating, weighing risks, searching for another option that didn't exist. If we do this, he said finally, you follow my lead. Exactly. No improvising, no heroics. You do what I tell you when I tell you. Understood? Understood. And if it looks like you're about to be captured, you run. You don't look back. You don't try to save me. You just run. Adrian, that's the condition. Take it or this doesn't happen. Vivian met his eyes. Fine. I'll run. She was lying. They both knew it, but Adrian nodded anyway. Then we moved tonight. The plan was simple. Brutally simple. Vivian would return to the motel, act like she was settling in for the night. Rourke's people would be watching. Adrian was certain of it. Once they confirmed her location, they'd move, and Adrian would be waiting. They spent the afternoon preparing. Adrian gave Vivian a Kevlar vest that felt like wearing a lead blanket, a knife strapped to her ankle, the Glock 43 in a holster at the small of her back, an earpiece so they could communicate. Test it, Adrian said. Vivian tapped the earpiece. Can you hear me? Adrian's voice came through crystal clear. Loud and clear. Remember, when they come, you stay in the bathroom. Lock the door. Get behind the tub. Let me handle the rest. What if they come through the bathroom window? They won't. It's too small. They'll come through the front door and the main window. Standard breach pattern. And you'll be where? The roof. I'll have a clear line of sight on both entry points. Vivian's pulse hammered. This was real. This was happening. Hayes drove her back to the motel just before sunset. Carter was already in position somewhere Vivian couldn't see. Adrian had left an hour earlier to set up on the roof. Vivian walked to room 23 like it was the longest walk of her life. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every sound made her jump. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, locked it behind her. Then she waited. Adrian's voice crackled in her ear. I'm in position. 2 heat signatures in a car across the street. Gray sedan. They've been there for 20 minutes. Vivian's mouth went dry. How many? 2 visible. Could be more. Turn on the TV. Make it look normal. She turned on the television. Some old movie she didn't recognize. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, trying to look relaxed. Movement, Adrian said. They're getting out of the car. 2 males, both armed. They're approaching the building. Vivian stood and moved toward the bathroom. Wait, Adrian said. Let them get closer. I need a clean shot. She froze. They're at the door. Get in the bathroom. Now. Vivian ran, locked herself in the tiny bathroom and crouched behind the tub exactly like Adrian had instructed. Her heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her throat. The front door exploded inward. Two men rushed inside. Vivian couldn't see them, but she could hear them. Boots on carpet, furniture being overturned, voices shouting. Clear! Bathroom! Footsteps approaching. Then gunfire. 3 quick shots that made Vivian's ears ring even through the bathroom wall. A body hit the floor. More gunfire. Glass shattering. Then silence. Adrian's voice in her ear, calm as death. 2 down. Stay where you are. Vivian's hands shook. She pressed them against the cold tile floor to steady herself. Movement outside, Adrian said. 3rd target. He's running. Hayes is pursuing. More gunfire in the distance. Then nothing. Vivian waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. Finally, Adrian's voice. It's clear. You can come out. She unlocked the bathroom door and stepped over debris into the main room. 2 bodies lay on the floor, both face down, both leaking blood onto the cheap carpet. Vivian forced herself to look away. Adrian stood in the doorway, rifle in hand. Are you hurt? Vivian shook her head. She couldn't speak. Hayes got the 3rd one. He's in custody. We'll question him. Find out if Rourke sent them or if this was independent. And if it was Rourke?
Then we know he's close, and we know he's desperate. Vivian looked at the bodies again. 2 men dead because of her, because she'd put herself here as bait. How do you do this? She whispered. How do you live with it? Adrian lowered the rifle. You don't. You just survive it. Carter appeared in the doorway. We need to move. Neighbors heard the shots. Police will be here in 10 minutes.
They left the bodies where they fell and piled into Hayes's car. Vivian sat in the back, staring at her hands. No blood on them, but she could still feel the weight of what had just happened. 2 more deaths. 2 more bodies added to the count. And Rourke was still out there. They drove to a different safe house. This one actually a house, tucked into a quiet neighborhood in Queens. Carter stayed outside on watch. Hayes disappeared into another room. Adrian led Vivian into it and locked the door. We need to talk, he said. About what? About what happens next. The man Hayes captured, his name is Doyle, works for Rourke. And he confirmed what I already suspected. Rourke's coming for you personally, tomorrow night. He's done using intermediaries. Vivian's blood ran cold. Where? That parking structure in Midtown, the one that's been closed for renovations. He's using it as a staging ground. He wants you there at midnight, alone. That's a trap. Obviously. So we don't go. No, we go. But on our terms, with backup, with every advantage we can manufacture. Vivian looked at him. You're going to kill him. Yes. What if there's another way? What if we can...
There isn't. Not with Rourke. He's been paid. He'll finish the job or die trying. Those are the only 2 options, and I'm not letting him finish. Vivian wanted to argue, wanted to find some other path that didn't end in more death, but she couldn't. Because Adrian was right. This was always going to end in blood. The only question was whose. What do you need from me? Vivian asked. I need you to trust me. One more time.
She looked into those gray eyes and saw everything she'd seen from the beginning. The violence, the control, the absolute certainty. But she also saw something else. The same exhaustion she felt. The same desperate need for this to be over. Okay, she said. One more time. Adrian nodded. Then we finish this tomorrow. The next day passed in a haze of preparation. Adrian walked Vivian through the plan a dozen times. Every step, every contingency, every possible point of failure. The parking structure was 7 levels. Abandoned for 8 months. No cameras. No security. Perfect for an ambush. Rourke would expect Vivian to come alone. He'd have the high ground. Probably the 6th or 7th level where he could see all approaches. So Adrian would come from below, through the maintenance access, while Carter and Hayes secured the perimeter and cut off any escape routes. Vivian's job was simple. Walk in, draw Rourke out, keep him focused on her long enough for Adrian to get into position, then get the hell out of the way. What if he shoots me before you're ready? Vivian asked. He won't. He needs you alive. How do you know? Because if he just wanted you dead, he would have killed you at the motel. He's using you to draw me out, which means he needs you breathing. And once you're there, then it doesn't matter what he needs. They drove to the parking structure at 11:30.
Hayes dropped Vivian 2 blocks away. Adrian had already entered through the maintenance access 20 minutes earlier. Carter was positioned across the street with a clear line of sight on the exits. Vivian walked alone toward the structure, her footsteps echoing in the empty street. The building loomed above her, 7 levels of concrete and shadows. Most of the lights were out. The entrance gaped open like a mouth. She stepped inside. Adrian's voice in her ear. "I'm on level 3. Moving up. Keep him talking as long as you can." Vivian's hand drifted to the gun at her back. The weight of it was both comforting and terrifying. She took the ramp up. Level 2. Level 3. The structure was a maze of support pillars and empty parking spaces. Her breathing echoed. On level 5, she found him. Rourke stood in the center of the floor, silhouetted against the city lights beyond. He held a rifle casually. Not aimed at her. Not yet. "You came," he said. "You knew I would." "I did. You're more predictable than you think." Vivian stopped 30 feet away. "What do you want?" "To finish my contract. Lorraine paid me to kill Adrian Vale. I intend to honor that." "She's gone. She's in Mexico. The contract's void." "The contract is permanent. That was the agreement. She paid up front, in full, which means I deliver, even if she's on another continent." "That's insane," Rourke shrugged. "That's professionalism. You wouldn't understand." Adrian's voice in her ear. "Level 6, almost there. Keep him talking." "What happens to me?" Vivian asked. "After you kill Adrian, you walk away. I have no quarrel with you." "I don't believe that." "Believe what you want. I keep my word. Always have." "Even when your employer's instructions came from a woman who tried to kill me?" "I don't judge my clients. I just finish the job." Vivian took a step closer. "What if I offered you more money? Double what Lorraine paid. Let us walk away." Rourke actually smiled. "You don't have that kind of money." "Adrian does." "Adrian's money is irrelevant. This isn't about money anymore." "Then what's it about?" "Reputation. I've never failed a contract, not once in 15 years. If I walk away now, that perfect record ends, and in my line of work, reputation is everything." Adrian's voice. "I'm in position. When I give the signal, drop to the ground." Vivian's pulse hammered. "So this is about ego. Call it what you want. The result's the same. Vale dies tonight. You walk away. Those are the terms." "And if I refuse?" Rourke raised the rifle. "Then you die first, and I wait for him to come to you." Everything slowed down. Vivian saw Rourke's finger move toward the trigger, saw Adrian step out from behind a support pillar on the level above, rifle already aimed, heard the crack of gunfire. "Down!" Adrian's voice in her ear. Vivian dropped. Bullets tore through the air above her head. Concrete exploded into dust. She crawled behind a pillar as more gunfire erupted. Adrian and Rourke trading shots, muzzle flashes lighting up the darkness like lightning. Vivian pulled the Glock from her back and tried to remember everything Adrian had taught her. Sight alignment, breath control. Squeeze, don't pull. She leaned around the pillar. Rourke had taken cover behind a concrete barrier. Adrian was pinned on the level above, unable to get a clean shot. They were stuck. Vivian made a decision. She stepped out of cover and fired 3 shots toward Rourke's position. They went wide. She was still a terrible shot, but they did what she needed them to do. They made him turn toward her, which gave Adrian the opening he needed. The rifle cracked once. Rourke staggered, dropped his weapon, fell to his knees. Adrian was moving before Rourke hit the ground, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Vivian ran toward them, gun still raised. Rourke clutched his chest, blood seeping between his fingers. He looked up at Adrian with something like respect. "Clean shot," he managed to say. Adrian stood over him, rifle aimed at his head. "It's over." "Is it?" Rourke coughed. Blood flecked his lips. "You think I'm the only one coming? You think this ends with me?" "Who else?" Lorraine had friends, people who owe her, people who don't care that she's in Mexico. "They're coming, Vale, and they won't stop until—" The gunshot cut him off. Vivian flinched. Rourke slumped forward, dead before he hit the concrete. Adrian lowered his rifle. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Adrian's earpiece crackled. Carter's voice. "We've got movement. 4 vehicles approaching fast. Multiple hostiles. You need to leave. Now." Adrian grabbed Vivian's hand. Run.
They ran. Down the ramps. Past Rourke's body. Past the blood and bullet casings. Out into the street where Hayes was already pulling up in the SUV. They piled in. Hayes hit the gas. Behind them, Vivian saw headlights flooding into the parking structure. Heard shouting. Heard more gunfire. "Who are they?" she gasped. "Lorraine's crew," Adrian said. "The rest of them. They must have been waiting for Rourke to make his move." "How many?" "Too many." Hayes took a corner hard enough to make the tires scream. "Where to?" Adrian's jaw was set. "The warehouse. We make our stand there." "Adrian, there's at least a dozen of them." "I know, but if we run, they'll hunt us forever. This ends tonight." Vivian looked at him. "This is suicide." "No, this is finishing what we started." Hayes drove like she was racing death itself, weaving through traffic, running red lights. Behind them, the 4 vehicles followed. Gaining. They reached the warehouse in Newark, Adrian's fortress, his armory. They had maybe 3 minutes before Lorraine's crew arrived. Adrian was already moving, pulling weapons from racks, loading magazines, issuing orders to Carter and Hayes. Vivian stood in the center of it all, gun still in her hand, and realized with perfect clarity that this was it. The final stand. Win or die. And there was no walking away this time. Adrian looked at her. "Last chance. Hayes can get you out. There's a back exit. You can still—" "No." "Vivian?" "I said no. We finish this together." Adrian's expression was unreadable. Then he nodded once and handed her a tactical vest. "Then gear up. They'll be here in 2 minutes." Vivian strapped on the vest, checked her weapon, and took position near one of the windows. Outside, she could see headlights approaching through the darkness. 4 vehicles. Maybe 15 people, all coming to kill them. Adrian moved beside her, rifle in hand, calm as stone. "You ready?" he asked. Vivian thought about the woman she'd been 2 weeks ago. Scared, trapped, broken. She thought about everything she'd survived since then, and she realized she wasn't that woman anymore. "Yeah," she said. "I'm ready." The first vehicle crashed through the warehouse door, and the world exploded into chaos. The first vehicle didn't just crash through the warehouse door, it tore it off its hinges in a screech of metal and splintering wood. The SUV skidded sideways across the concrete floor, spraying sparks, before slamming into a support pillar hard enough to deploy the airbags. Adrian fired before the dust settled. 3 controlled bursts that punched through the windshield and dropped the driver where he sat. The passenger door flew open and 2 men tumbled out, weapons raised. Vivian squeezed the trigger. Her first shot went wide. Her second hit one of the men in the shoulder, spinning him around. Hayes finished him with a headshot from her position near the equipment racks. The second vehicle rolled through the ruined entrance, more cautious this time. Its occupants bailed out behind cover, using the destroyed SUV as a shield. Muzzle flashes erupted from 3 directions at once. Bullets tore through the warehouse. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Concrete dust filled the air like fog. Vivian ducked behind a steel workbench as rounds chewed through the space where her head had been seconds earlier. Her ears rang. Her hands shook. But she kept firing, controlled bursts like Adrian had taught her, not trying to hit anyone, just keeping them pinned. Carter's voice crackled over the radio. "Third vehicle circling to the west entrance. I've got no angle." "Let them come," Adrian said. His voice was cold, mechanical, the voice of someone who'd done this too many times to count. "Hayes, cover the east. I've got center. Vivian, watch our 6." Vivian scrambled to a new position near the back wall, her Kevlar vest heavy with sweat and fear. Through the broken windows, she could see the third vehicle, a black pickup truck, positioning itself near the side entrance. 4 men climbed out, moving with military precision. These weren't street thugs. These were professionals. The side door exploded inward under a battering ram. The 4 men flowed through the breach like water, fanning out, weapons up, clearing corners with practiced efficiency. One of them spotted Vivian and swung his rifle toward her. She fired first. The Glock kicked in her hand. The man stumbled, clutching his leg, and dropped behind a concrete barrier. Adrian appeared from nowhere, moving through the chaos like a ghost. He put 2 rounds through the barrier, which turned out to be drywall over plywood, not actual cover. The wounded man collapsed, but Adrian was already moving, engaging the next target. His rifle cracked twice. A man fell, cracked again. Another went down. The remaining two attackers split up. One went high, scrambling up a metal staircase to the catwalk. The other went wide, trying to flank. Hayes caught the flanker with a burst that walked up his chest and throat. He dropped without a sound. The man on the catwalk had the high ground now. He opened fire, raking the warehouse floor with automatic bursts. Adrian dove behind a forklift. Vivian pressed herself flat against the wall as bullets chewed through the air above her. Carter's voice. "I'm coming in." "Negative," Adrian snapped. "Hold your position. We've got one more vehicle unaccounted for." As if summoning it, the fourth vehicle, a van, crashed through what was left of the main entrance. Its side door was already open. 3 men leaned out, firing as the van screamed across the warehouse floor. It was chaos. Pure, incomprehensible chaos. Vivian couldn't track all the threats at once, couldn't process the information fast enough. She just reacted, firing at shadows, moving when bullets got too close, trying not to die. Her magazine ran dry. She dropped it, fumbling for a fresh one, hands slippery with sweat. The reload took too long. Way too long. A figure appeared in front of her, one of Lorraine's crew, a massive man with a scarred face and dead eyes. He'd gotten past Adrian somehow. He raised his pistol toward Vivian's face. She didn't think, just moved. The knife Adrian had given her was in her hand before she registered pulling it. She drove it into the man's throat exactly where Adrian had shown her. The blade slid in easier than she expected. The man's eyes went wide. Blood poured over her hand, hot and slick and impossibly red. He tried to speak, but only managed a wet gurgle. Then his legs gave out and he collapsed at her feet. Vivian stared at her hands, at the blood, at the knife still clutched in her fingers. She'd just killed someone, not shot them from a distance, not fired blindly in self-defense. She'd looked him in the eyes and killed him. Her stomach lurched. She thought she might throw up. Then Adrian was there, pulling her down as bullets tore through the space where she'd been standing. "Stay low. Reload. Keep moving." Vivian nodded numbly. She reloaded, kept moving. The man on the catwalk was still firing. Adrian was pinned. Hayes was engaging 2 attackers near the east wall. The van was circling for another pass. They were losing. Vivian saw it in Adrian's face. The calculation, the grim acceptance. They were outnumbered and running out of ammunition and time. Then Carter's voice cut through the radio. "Screw your orders. I'm coming in." The west entrance shattered as Carter drove her motorcycle straight through the wall. She came in low and fast, firing a submachine gun one-handed while steering with the other. 2 of Lorraine's crew went down before they knew what hit them. The man on the catwalk swung his rifle toward Carter. Adrian took advantage of the distraction and put a round through the man's center mass. He toppled over the railing and hit the concrete floor with a sound that would haunt Vivian's nightmares. The van screeched to a stop. The remaining crew, Vivian counted 3, maybe 4, bailed out and took cover behind it. For a moment, the gunfire stopped. Both sides were breathing hard, taking stock, trying to figure out the next move. Adrian's voice was quiet in her ear. "Vivian, how many rounds you got left?" She checked her magazine. 6. "Make them count. When I give the signal, we rush them. All at once, overwhelming force. It's the only way." "Adrian, that's suicide." "It's the only way. You understand?" Vivian's throat was too tight to answer. She just nodded. Adrian looked at Hayes, at Carter. They both nodded too. "On 3, Adrian said. 1. A voice cut through the warehouse, loud, commanding, coming from behind the van. "Vale, I want to talk." Adrian froze. Vivian saw something flicker across his face. Recognition, maybe. Or dread. "Who is that?" Vivian whispered. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Someone I thought was dead." He stood slowly, rifle lowered but ready. "Brennan, I should have known." The man who stepped out from behind the van was maybe 60, gray-haired, built like an aging boxer. He held no weapon, just walked into the open like he was taking a stroll. "Been a long time, Adrian." "Not long enough." Brennan smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Lorraine called in an old favor before she left, said her boy needed protecting, said you'd come after him. She was right, as usual. Lorraine's in Mexico. Whatever she paid you, the deal's off." "The deal's never off. You taught me that, remember? Finish what you start, no matter what." Adrian's finger tightened on the trigger. I could end this right now. You could try. But my people have their orders. I go down, they empty every magazine they've got. You might survive. Your people might survive. But she won't. Brennan pointed at Vivian. That girl's got maybe 5 pounds of Kevlar on her. Against 3 rifles and 2 submachine guns, she'll be dead before she hits the floor. Vivian's pulse hammered. She looked at Adrian and saw him doing the math, calculating angles and odds and acceptable losses. She saw him realize Brennan was right. What do you want? Adrian asked. Simple. You walk away, leave the girl, leave Trent alone. Disappear. I hear Mexico's nice this time of year. You and Lorraine could compare notes. And if I refuse? Then we all die here. Tonight. And for what? Some waitress you've known for 2 weeks? Some junkie wife-beater who's already destroyed himself? Is that really worth dying for? Adrian didn't answer. He just stood there, rifle half raised, staring at Brennan like he was trying to see through him to some truth underneath. Vivian realized he was actually considering it. Adrian, she said quietly, don't. Vivian, don't you dare. Don't you dare walk away now. Not after everything. If I don't, you die. Then I die. But I die fighting, not hiding, not running, fighting. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. The calculation fell away. What was left was something rawer, more honest. I'm tired, Vivian. I'm so goddamn tired. I know, me too. But we're almost done. Just a little further. Brennan shook his head. Touching, really. But I don't have all night. What's it going to be, Vale? You walk away, or we end this the hard way. Adrian looked at Vivian one more time. She saw the question in his eyes, saw him asking if she was really ready to die for this. She nodded. Adrian turned back to Brennan. I've got a counteroffer. I'm listening. Your crew stands down. I let them walk out of here alive, but you stay, you and me. We settle this the old way. Brennan laughed. You want to fight me? At your age with a hole in your shoulder? I want to give you a chance, more than you're giving me. And if I win, then your people take Vivian and do whatever Lorraine paid you to do. I'll be dead. I won't care. And if you win, then your crew walks away and never comes back. This ends. Tonight. Forever. Brennan thought about it. Vivian could see him weighing the options. Finally, he smiled. All right, old time's sake. He turned to his crew. Weapons down. Nobody fires unless I give the order. They lowered their guns, slowly, reluctantly. Adrian handed his rifle to Hayes. If I lose, you won't, Hayes said. If I lose, get her out of here, whatever it takes. Hayes nodded. Adrian walked to the center of the warehouse floor. Brennan met him there. The 2 men circled each other like predators sizing up prey. Vivian had never seen Adrian fight hand-to-hand before. She'd seen him shoot, seen him plan, seen him move through violence with cold efficiency. But this was different. This was personal. Brennan struck first, a straight punch that Adrian slipped. Adrian countered with a hook to the ribs that landed hard. Brennan grunted but didn't slow down. He grabbed Adrian's injured shoulder and squeezed. Adrian's face went white. He drove his knee into Brennan's stomach. Once. Twice. Brennan released his grip and staggered back. They circled again, both breathing hard now. You've gotten slow, Brennan said. You've gotten old. They crashed together again, fists and elbows and knees, no technique, no elegance, just 2 men trying to hurt each other. Brennan got Adrian in a headlock. Adrian drove his elbow backward into Brennan's ribs until something cracked. Brennan released him. Adrian spun and caught Brennan with an uppercut that snapped his head back. Brennan stumbled. Adrian pressed the advantage, raining punches down until Brennan dropped to one knee. For a moment, Vivian thought it was over. Then Brennan pulled a knife from his boot and drove it into Adrian's thigh. Adrian screamed. The sound was raw and animal and horrible. He fell back, clutching his leg, blood pouring between his fingers. Brennan stood, knife still in hand, breathing hard. Sorry, Adrian, but I've got a contract to honor. He raised the knife. A gunshot cracked through the warehouse. Brennan staggered, looked down at the hole in his chest, looked up at Vivian, who stood 20 feet away with her Glock raised, smoke curling from the barrel. You said weapons down, Vivian said. Her voice was steady. Her hands weren't shaking. You didn't say anything about knives. Brennan smiled. Blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. Smart girl. He fell forward and didn't get up. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Brennan's crew raised their weapons, and Hayes, Carter, and Adrian, even injured, raised theirs. Mexican standoff, 7 people, all with fingers on triggers, all knowing that whoever fired first would start a bloodbath that nobody would survive. The silence stretched. Vivian's heart hammered. Her gun was still pointed at where Brennan had been standing. Finally, one of Brennan's crew, a woman maybe 40 years old with hard eyes and graying hair, lowered her weapon. Contract's void, she said. Brennan's dead. We weren't paid enough to die for him. She gestured to the others. They lowered their weapons too. We're leaving, the woman said. You don't follow us, we don't come back. Deal? Adrian nodded, still clutching his bleeding thigh. Deal. They left, collected their dead, loaded them into the remaining vehicles, and disappeared into the night. Vivian dropped her gun and ran to Adrian. He was pale, losing blood fast. We need to get that knife out, Hayes said. No, Adrian gasped. Leave it in. Pull it out and I'll bleed out in minutes. We need a hospital. Hospital means police, Carter said. Police means questions. I don't care. Get me to a hospital or I die here. Your choice. They got him to the SUV. Hayes drove like she was outrunning death itself. Carter called ahead to a private clinic Adrian had used before, the kind that didn't ask questions as long as you paid in cash. Vivian sat in the back with Adrian, pressing her hands against the wound around the knife, trying to slow the bleeding. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. You saved my life, he said. You saved mine first. That makes us even. No, that makes us survivors. Adrian's hand found hers, squeezed weakly. I'm sorry for all of it, for dragging you into this, for lying, for... Stop. Just stop. You did what you thought was right, so did I. That's all anyone can do. They reached the clinic. Doctors and nurses swarmed. They hauled Adrian inside on a gurney. Vivian tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her. Family only. I'm his... Vivian stopped. What was she? Not his wife, not his girlfriend, not anything that had a name. She's with me, Adrian called from the gurney. Let her stay. They let her stay. Adrian survived the surgery. Barely. The knife had nicked his femoral artery. Another half-inch and he would have bled out before they reached the clinic. As it was, he'd lost enough blood to require 2 transfusions. He spent 3 days unconscious. Vivian spent 3 days in a chair beside his bed, sleeping in shifts, eating when Carter forced her to, watching monitors that beeped and hummed and promised he was still alive. On the 4th day, he opened his eyes. Hey, he said. His voice was rough, raw. Hey, Vivian said. We win? We survived. I think that's as close to winning as people like us get. Adrian smiled. It was small and tired, but real. People like us. Yeah, the broken ones. You're not broken. Neither are you, not anymore. They sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, the city moved on, indifferent to the violence that had unfolded in its shadows. What happens now? Vivian asked finally. I don't know. For the first time in 8 years, I genuinely don't know. You could keep doing what you've been doing, saving people, fighting monsters. I could, but I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of blood. I'm tired of waking up and counting bodies. So what do you want? Adrian looked at her, really looked at her. I want to try something I've never done before. What's that? Peace. Vivian felt something crack open in her chest. Not breaking, opening, like a door she'd kept locked for years finally swinging wide. I don't know how to do that, she admitted. Neither do I, but maybe we could figure it out together. What about Trent? Trent's a ghost. After Brennan's crew pulled out, he disappeared. Could be hiding, could be dead. Either way, he's not your problem anymore. And all the people who worked for Lorraine, the ones who got away? Carter's been making calls. Word on the street is that anyone connected to that crew is laying low. Nobody wants to be the next one Adrian Vale comes after. You're safe, Vivian. For real, this time.
She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that it was really over, but she'd been surviving too long to trust easy answers. How do you know? She asked. How do you know this isn't just another pause before the next attack?
Adrian was quiet for a moment. I don't. Not for certain. But I know that I'm done hunting, done fighting, done building wars out of other people's pain. If someone comes for us again, we'll deal with it, together. But I'm not going looking for fights anymore. What will you do? Sell the penthouse. Liquidate the accounts. Shut down the operation. Disappear. Where? Somewhere quiet. Somewhere nobody knows my name. Somewhere I can wake up in the morning and not count bodies before breakfast.
Vivian thought about the envelope of cash and fake documents still sitting in a motel nightstand somewhere, about the new identity she'd been offered, about all the ways she could vanish and start over. I have fake documents, she said. A new name, Claire Morgan. You want to use them?
I think I do. I think Vivian Mercer has carried enough weight. Maybe it's time to let her rest.
And what about Adrian Vale? I think he deserves to rest too. Adrian smiled. Ethan Bennett. That's the identity I set up for myself months ago, just in case. Claire and Ethan, Vivian said, testing the names. Think they could have a better life than we did? I think they could try.
3 months later, Vivian stood on a porch overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The house was small, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that smelled like salt and coffee, a living room with furniture bought secondhand from a widow down the street. No luxury, no excess, just simple and clean and quiet. She'd enrolled in community college under her new name, psychology degree. She wanted to understand trauma, wanted to help people the way nobody had helped her. Adrian, Ethan now, had taken a job teaching self-defense at a local community center, mostly teenagers and single mothers, people who needed to feel safe in their own skin. He was good at it, patient, gentle, nothing like the man who'd once commanded private armies. They didn't talk about the past, not often. Some nights the memories came anyway. The parking garage, the warehouse, the blood and gunfire and terror. Those nights they held each other and waited for dawn. But mostly, they lived. They learned to cook. They learned to garden. They learned how to have conversations that weren't about survival strategies or exit plans. They learned how to breathe. One evening, 6 months after they'd settled into their new life, Vivian came home to find Adrian in the kitchen staring at his phone. "What's wrong?" she asked. He turned the phone toward her, a news article. A photo of Trent Calloway under the headline, "Man Found Dead in Apparent Overdose." Vivian read the article twice. Trent had been found in a motel room in Atlantic City. Empty bottles, empty pill containers, no signs of foul play. "How do you feel?" Adrian asked quietly. Vivian thought about it. She waited for grief or relief or an anger or something, but all she felt was tired. "I feel like a chapter finally closed," she said. "Not a happy ending, just an ending." Adrian nodded. "You want to go to the funeral?" No, Vivian Mercer might have, but Claire Morgan doesn't have any reason to be there, and I'm Claire now. She set down the phone and went back to chopping vegetables for dinner. Adrian watched her for a moment, then joined her. They worked in comfortable silence, moving around each other with the easy familiarity of people who'd learned each other's rhythms. "I got a call today," Adrian said eventually, "from someone who knew me before. They were asking if I'd consult on a case. Abusive husband, woman too scared to leave." Vivian's knife stilled against the cutting board. "What did you say?" "I said no. I gave them the number for a domestic violence shelter, told them to call the police, told them I was retired." "Do you regret it?" Saying no. Adrian set down his own knife. "I regret a lot of things, Vivian, but saying no to that call isn't one of them. I spent 8 years trying to save people from monsters without becoming one myself. I failed. The best thing I can do now is stay out of it. You're not a monster. I've killed people, a lot of people. Some of them deserved it, some didn't, but I killed them all the same. That's not something I can undo. Best I can do is make sure I don't add to the count." Vivian put down her knife and turned to face him. "You saved my life. Whatever else you've done, that matters." "Does it? Or did I just postpone the inevitable? You've still got scars, still got nightmares, still flinch when someone raises their voice. Did I save you, or did I just trade one kind of damage for another? You gave me a choice. That's more than I had before. What I do with it is up to me." Adrian's eyes searched hers. And what have you decided to do with it? I've decided to live. Really live. Not just survive, not just get through each day. Actually build something that matters. Help people who've been where I was. Maybe save a few lives myself. Without violence? Without violence. Adrian pulled her into his arms. She rested her head against his chest and listened to his heartbeat, steady and strong and alive. I love you, he said quietly. I don't know if I have the right to say that after everything I've put you through, but it's true. Vivian pulled back enough to look at him. You have the right, and I love you too. Not the billionaire vigilante, not the man who saved me from Trent, just you, the broken man who chose to heal instead of breaking everything else. They stood there in the kitchen while dinner cooled on the counter, holding each other like two people who'd survived a war and couldn't quite believe they'd made it out alive. 2 years later, Vivian stood in front of a room full of women and spoke about survival, about endurance, about the choices that define us and the ones that destroy us. The shelter she'd opened, Claire's house, named after her new identity, occupied a converted church on the edge of town. It had 20 beds, a full kitchen, legal aid services, and a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. Adrian had designed it himself. The women in the room had all been where Vivian had been, broken, terrified, trapped between the devil they knew and the abyss they didn't. I can't promise it gets easier, Vivian told them. I can't promise the nightmares stop or the fear goes away completely, but I can promise that you're stronger than you think. And I can promise that you don't have to do this alone. After the meeting, she found Adrian waiting outside. He'd been volunteering at the shelter too, teaching self-defense, installing security systems, being present in the quiet, non-threatening way that helped these women remember that not all men were monsters. How'd it go? He asked. Good. 3 new intakes today, all from different situations, all needing help. You can't save everyone, you know. I know, but I can save some. And some is better than none. They walked together through the small coastal town they now called home, past the coffee shop where Vivian worked part-time, past the community center where Adrian taught classes, past the library where they both volunteered on weekends. It was a small life, a quiet life. It was exactly what they needed. That evening they sat on their porch watching the sun set over the ocean. Adrian was reading a book about woodworking, his latest hobby. Vivian was reviewing applications for a grant that would expand the shelter. I got a letter today, Adrian said without looking up from his book. From one of the women I helped, years ago, before you. She wanted to tell me she's doing well, got her degree, has her own place. Hasn't spoken to her ex-husband in 5 years. That's good, Vivian said. It is, but she also said something that's been bothering me. Adrian set down his book. She said I saved her life, but I've been thinking about it, and I'm not sure I did. I think she saved herself. I just kicked the door open. She's the one who walked through it. Vivian looked at him. Is that what you think about me, that you just kicked the door open? Isn't it? You're the one who picked up that gun on the pier. You're the one who fought back in the warehouse. You're the one who chose to build this life instead of running from it. I was just there. You did the rest. We both did the work, Adrian. Neither of us could have survived this alone. Maybe. Or maybe we both just needed someone to witness us choosing to live instead of die. Someone to hold the door open while we figured out how to walk through it. Vivian thought about that, about all the doors that had been opened for her, about all the ones she'd had to kick down herself. I think survival is collaborative, she said finally. Nobody does it alone. We all need someone to open doors, and we all need the strength to walk through them. You gave me the first part. I gave myself the second. Together, we made it work. Adrian reached over and took her hand. I'm glad you walked through that door. Me too. They sat in silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and gold. The ocean whispered against the shore. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car drove past. The world kept turning, indifferent to their story. But they were here, together, alive. And that was enough. Vivian looked at the man beside her, this complicated, damaged, beautiful man who'd tried to save the world and ended up saving himself instead. She thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, the one who'd stared at bruises in a cracked bathroom mirror and wondered if this was all life had to offer. That woman would barely recognize Claire Morgan, and that was exactly the point. "You know what I realized today?" Vivian said. "What's that?" "I've been free for 2 years. Really free. And I didn't even notice the exact moment it happened. It wasn't when we left the city. It wasn't when Trent died. It wasn't even when we changed our names. It was somewhere in between, in the quiet moments. In the mornings when I woke up without fear. In the nights when I slept without nightmares. Freedom's like that," Adrian said. "You don't achieve it all at once. You build it, one day at a time, one choice at a time, until one day you look around and realize you're not running anymore." "Are you free?" Vivian asked. Adrian thought about it. "I'm getting there. Some days more than others. But yeah, I think I am." "What does it feel like?" "Like breathing without weight on my chest. Like walking without looking over my shoulder. Like being able to imagine a future that doesn't end in blood." Vivian squeezed his hand. "That's a good answer." They sat on the porch until the stars came out, talking about small things and big things and everything in between. They talked about expanding the shelter, about Adrian's idea for a scholarship program, about the vacation they'd been planning to take next summer. They talked about the future like it was something they owned instead of something that owned them. And when they finally went inside, they moved through their evening routine with the comfortable ease of two people who'd learned to build a life together from the wreckage of the ones they'd left behind. Vivian stood in the bathroom brushing her teeth and caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. No bruises, no split lip, no swelling. Just a 30-year-old woman with tired eyes and a hard-won smile. She thought about the woman who'd stared into a cracked mirror 2 years ago, bleeding and broken. She thought about everything that woman had survived to become this one. And she whispered to her own reflection, "You made it." Because she had. They both had. Against all odds. Against all the violence and fear and pain, they'd survived. Not just survived, they'd built something worth surviving for. And maybe that was the real victory. Not the absence of monsters, but the presence of something worth fighting for, something worth protecting, something worth living for. As Vivian climbed into bed beside Adrian that night, she realized she wasn't running anymore, wasn't hiding, wasn't just getting through each day. She was living, really living. And for the first time in her life, Vivian Mercer, no, Claire Morgan now, was finally, truly free. Adrian turned off the light and pulled her close. "You okay?" he asked in the darkness. "Yeah," she said. "I really am." And she meant it. Outside, the ocean continued its eternal rhythm against the shore. The stars wheeled overhead, the world spun on. And two broken people who'd learned to heal each other slept without nightmares, safe in the knowledge that they'd survived the worst life could throw at them. Together. The end.